Ladies and gentlemen, we have very serious news tonight. Dr. Fauci has come out and essentially lit a fire under lab leak hypothesis. This is very important news we must talk about. Instead, we're going to lead with Don Lemon did a failed publicity stunt pretending he was quitting CNN because his ratings are down 77%. And we talked about it. I was like, I don't know, this Fauci thing's really serious news. And we're all like, we should make fun of Don Lemon. Like, yeah, it's true. We should make fun of Don Lemon. So joining us to make fun of Don Lemon is Chris Barron, not of the Spin Doctors.
Not of the Spin Doctors. I'm not that guy.
No, but introduce yourself. Yeah.
I'm Chris Barron. I'm the president of Right Turn Strategies. I'm a contributor to Human Events and the Political Insider.
And apparently the Spin Doctors guy isn't a fan.
No, he's not, because people jump into his timeline on Twitter and bring up Trump and stuff. He's like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that Chris Barron. Which I point out to him, that's never happened to me. No Spin Doctors fans have ever jumped into my timeline. So.
Do people really tweet at him though?
No, they really do.
Really?
Because I'll follow the tweet chain back up.
Is it because his Twitter is like at Chris Barron or something?
It is. That's why I'm at Chris R. Barron, because he stole Chris Barron. Like,
there can be only one.
Right. Death match. That's it.
Highlander. All right, right on, man. Thanks for hanging out. We got Ian's.
What's up, everybody? Good to be here. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm here as well. I'm pushing buttons in the corner. It's going to be a really fun night. I cannot wait to make fun of Don Lemon. Let's go.
We have other, really important news. I mean, a federal judge ruled that Joe Biden's policies are basically racist.
Don Lemon.
Making fun of Don Lemon.
Don Lemon, come on.
Well, as much as I'll say it's making fun of Don Lemon, I really do think the media is one of the biggest, it's like the biggest root of the problem, or at least one large root providing nutrients to this corrupted political ecosystem and infrastructure. So we definitely got to talk about how desperate they are. And it's good news. It's a bit more optimistic than all the bad news. But before we get started, my friends, we have a really awesome sponsor tonight. Virtual Shield sponsors the show. Check out Surfing Internet Safe. The link is in the description below. And you can get 50% off for life. They actually even say at the bottom that you can enjoy 24 months of online security. And that's over 77% off if you get it for $59.88. It's only $2.50 a month. You can just click that button, sign up for free. Now, for those that are wondering what it is, it's a virtual private network. So a lot of people have started working remotely for the past year if you've been at home. A virtual private network is a basic layer of security. It makes it harder for hackers and criminals and big corporations and the government to track what you're doing. I always describe it like this. You live in a house probably. You don't expect people to break in, but you still lock your doors and windows. But let's be real. Like, if somebody wanted to kick your door or window in, they'd probably find a way, but you want to maintain that basic level of security. That's what a VPN is. It'll help keep you safe on the internet. Because Facebook and all these big corporations, they track every little bit of data. VPNs are legit, and Virtual Shield, they have been a sponsor of my work since my first YouTube channel, so they're incredibly awesome, and I'm eternally grateful. Again, go to surfinginternetsafe.com, and they have it right there. 50% off for life, only $2.50 per month if you want to take your security seriously. And I recommend you do, because it's a very simple and easy layer of security. You get a program, you press go, boom, you're done, ready to go. There's a bunch of other perks and benefits I'm not going to mention because YouTube probably won't want me to, but you should read into it because there's cool stuff. Like Ian's like,
Yes.
Like the cool things that VPNs can do for you that I probably can't say because YouTube will be like, whoa. But I'll just leave it at that. Check it out. It's basic security. It's awesome. And don't forget, go to timcast.com, click that blue members only button and sign up because we will have an exclusive members only bonus segment up tonight. But there's also a really fun segment we did last week, which apparently got a lot of comments about the Trump time traveling conspiracy theory, which because we're buzzkills, we debunk. But, well, I should say debunk with quotes because we're just giving our opinions on conspiracy theories. I don't know how you actually go to the future to claim it's not true or whatever, but the point is, it's fun. Go check it out. Now, without further ado, making fun of Don Lemon.
Yes.
Here's the story from Fox News. Don Lemon continues to lose viewers even after rebranding CNN show Desperate Publicity Stunt. The CNN anchor has lost a whopping 77% of viewers since the first week in January. Now, when I heard the story, you may have heard this. Don Lemon apparently made some announcement that he was grateful for all his years at CNN and he was going to be, changes were coming. And everybody was tweeting. I saw everybody tweeting, Don Lemon's quitting. It's over. The show's done. His ratings have dropped so dramatically. Surely they have fired the man. Turns out it was a publicity stunt where he's like, here's what look, there's a quote. I appreciate all the years of CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, but changes are coming and I will fill you in. And then all they did was they changed the name of his show from CNN Tonight with Don Lemon to Don Lemon Tonight. That's it.
Same time slot.
Same time slot.
Same
Right?
everything.
Same everything.
I mean, honestly, isn't there a point where CNN just recognizes that they're basically parody at this point? I mean, this is something that someone on our this is like a Babylon Bee article. This is something that someone on our side would spoof, saying, "No, this is how ridiculous CNN." We don't have to worry about that because CNN is actually they're doing it themselves.
Didn't Babylon Bee write an article saying that like CNN was beating them at their own game? There was something like that. No, but that's what's really funny about the satirical articles like Babylon Bee. The Onion writes really over the top nonsense. Like one of my favorites is "Stress of the Presidency ages Joe Biden 10 years," and it's a corpse, just like a mummified corpse, because he's already almost 80 years old. That's brutal dark humor, but it's very silly, right? Babylon Bee has their silly articles, but they'll also write things like CNN, wins award to beat Babylon Bee at parody or something. And the funny thing about Babylon Bee is it's a higher brow humor.
Oh yeah,
and people fall for it. I want to try and find it. If there's that, let's see if I can find the Babylon Bee CNN competition. I don't even know what to look for, but I'm pretty sure they did that.
Well, and there's been all of this like pushback against Babylon Bee. People saying like, oh, PolitiFact rating that, oh, this is not true, and oh, this is a debunked thing. I mean, it should speak about the state of the modern Democratic Party and the left, that people easily confuse obvious parody with the actual policies of the left.
To be fair, I've seen people confuse like The Onion for real news too.
Yeah.
But Babylon Bee is very political, and there are a lot of people who fall for it. So here's the article. In major deal, the Babylon Bee purchases competing satire site CNN. And it shows the Babylon Bee logo next to the CNN logo.
This is so good.
This is beyond parody. I don't know if we can. Maybe I can play this. Let's try and play it. There we go.
Earlier, I told you I had an announcement, and I do. It's been really, really great. This is the last night that we'll be CNN Tonight with Don Lemon. So I appreciate all the years of CNN Tonight with Don Lemon, but changes are coming, and I will fill you in. But until then, I'm very proud of my CNN special about Marvin Gaye's groundbreaking.
All right. You get it. The dude was very obviously trying to make it seem like he was quitting.
Right.
Wow. Well, it's good news.
No, and by the way, was anybody more disappointed that Trump lost than the executives at CNN?
Yeah, they were hurt the worst.
Absolutely. Well, they built their entire brand around we hate Trump more than anybody else.
MSNBC did as well. So I just watched Deep Impact. You ever see that movie?
No.
What Ian's laughing?
No, I've seen the clips from it.
Armageddon was clearly the better movie. So do you know what twin films is? So like there's this weird thing that happens where they make two movies of the same movie at the same time. So like a good example would be A Bug's Life and like Ants.
Is this kind of like when in R&B or hip hop in the 90s where they did Whoop, There It Is, and then like Hoot, There It Is, like the same song?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
So they made Armageddon. A bunch of guys got to go to an asteroid, blow it up. Then they made Deep Impact. Everyone's got to go to a comet and then blow it up. In that movie, because I don't want to lose my train of thought, the main character works for MSNBC, and she's trying to do a legitimate story. Like the movie starts, spoiler alerts for those that haven't seen a 23-year-old movie. So she works for MSNBC. She thinks she's got a story about the president having an affair with a woman named Ellie. MSNBC, investigative reporting in the same story. Amazing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, today.
Unreal.
So, but it was interesting because I watched Armageddon, which is this really silly movie where these like oil rig guys go to an asteroid. It makes no sense, but it's ridiculous silliness. Deep Impact tries to be much more serious. We're like, we got to go to this comet and blow it up. And I'm watching the beginning, and I see this woman. She's like, I work for MSNBC, and a camera guy comes out, and they're like, we're gonna get this report on the president and expose him. I'm like, wow, is that what MSNBC used to be?
Right.
Were they like real news at some point? I don't remember them being.
No,
real news.
there was a time where MSNBC was kind of positioned as almost a right of center news organization, like way back in the day.
Wow.
Like, yeah, I know. Like it seems amazing. And by the way, the reason why CNN's been hurt more than MSNBC is because I hate both of them equally. But MSNBC has leaned into actually some kind of entertaining personalities. Like, I mean, I think Rachel Maddow's a buffoon, but she's good at her job.
When she cried when the Mueller report,
Oh.
she almost cried when the Mueller report was bunk.
Right.
Like Trump wasn't a Russian asset. You could see her like welling up, like, well, this is it.
Yeah, no. And by the way, they've got Rachel Maddow, they've got Joy Reid. Like, I can't believe that woman still has a job. But, like, they've leaned into these kind of like bigger personalities, whereas CNN's got Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon and Brian Stelter and S.E. Cupp. I mean, it's like, obviously, if you're a left winger and it's post Trump, if you're gonna watch anything, it seems like MSNBC is gonna be a little more entertaining to watch than CNN.
You know what it feels like? Could you imagine going to a circus? Like, imagine there's 2 circuses, and in one there's a bunch of clowns going, "We are not clowns. Do not laugh at us." And you go in the other one and like, "We're totally clowns. Have a good time."
Yeah.
That's MSNBC.
Yes,
they're totally
100%.
Yeah. CNN is trying to make you think they're like, imagine a bunch of clowns wearing like suits, but they're still in their clown makeup, and they're trying to act like they're doing reporting. You're like, guys, this doesn't work.
Well, and it's like the contrast doesn't work either. Like, they've got those people like Wolf Blitzer and John King are supposed to be like these hard news people, and they're on essentially like a crazy conspiracy hoax-filled television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like it doesn't work. Meanwhile, like MSNBC is going with Joy Reid. Like, she's nuts. Everybody knows she's nuts. Like, they're not even trying.
You look at what Don Lemon did with that audio clip, very clearly making it seem like he was quitting in a desperate bid. You know what I bet happened? I bet they were like, "Don, your ratings are down 77%. Like, nobody's watching." And he was like, "Well, maybe people don't know it's my show. Maybe people need to know it's Don Lemon. You're right. Let's change the name from CNN Tonight with Don Lemon to Don Lemon Tonight."
Yeah.
Like, that's their big play.
Yep.
Okay, that's okay. I forgot where I was going before, but clearly the strategy makes no sense. The ratings are in the gutter, and that was what they thought was going to attract people.
Well, but again, they built an entire brand around Trump. I mean, no one was watching CNN before Trump. You go back and you look at the ratings pre-Trump. Yeah. CNN's ratings were absolutely in the garbage. I mean, they were absolutely terrible because, to their credit, for a few years, CNN tried to be this place somewhere in between Fox News and MSNBC. And they realized in an increasingly polarized society, there was no room to kind of be the middle guy. So instead, they just dove all in, into hating Trump.
You mentioned this when we were talking about satire, that it says something when Snopes needs to constantly debunk the Babylon Bee about CNN's type, audience. Here's what happens. Tucker Carlson, his ratings went down for sure. It still is at like 3 million or whatever. In the key demo, he's still, I think he's in the high, six figures. So everybody's ratings took a hit. Literally everybody's. For obvious reasons. I mean, you had this massive election. Everybody's going to go down. But MSNBC and CNN went down more than like all the other networks, more than all the YouTube channels. I mean, a lot of people on YouTube and in podcasts are doing better. Ratings are going up. So what happened was Tucker, for instance, he's the highest rated because, for one, I think he's a smart guy. I think he does a really good job.
Yep.
And as for the other CNN personalities, Fox is like an oasis in a desert. You can go to any one of these networks, NBC, ABC, whatever, and hear the same garbled nonsense. One of my favorite examples of how garbled the nonsense was is during the Mueller. No, this is the Ukraine stuff. Gordon Sondland, that's his name, right? Sondland.
Yeah.
He had said that Trump said no quid pro quo, but he thinks Trump wanted it. What did Fox News say? Quote, Sondland, quote, no quid pro quo. Literally a quote. I can accept that, whether you infer something else from it. Every other network, Sondland confirms quid pro quo. So Fox is this oasis in the desert for people. They want to watch something they know. CNN and MSNBC leaned in as hard as they could into building a network off of people who hate Trump. That won't last once Trump is gone. It says a lot about the two different culture war, parent bubbles, whatever their, smaller bubbles are, libertarian, conservative, whatever, versus like leftist, liberal. The liberal voters only cared about hating Trump.
And that's the only thing that kept them together as a voting bloc. And that's why this honeymoon is going to be so quick for Joe Biden, because the sad reality for him is there's no cohesive policy like group behind him. Like, whether you love Trump or hated Trump in 2017 when he got inaugurated, people knew what it was Trump for. He was for building a wall. He was for negotiating new trade deals. He was for making America great again. Like, all of these things he was for. Biden voters only cared about one thing. I hate Trump. And so now you're seeing all these internal divisions within the Democratic Party over actual policy stuff and realizing they have no cohesive argument because their entire election was predicated on simply hating Trump.
Now let's talk about the leftists.
Hey, I'm getting some feedback that the audio is very low.
Very low.
We're having some problems with audio. Guys, we just had an audio technician in today, so we're kind of working with the new setup. Some people are saying that you're coming in too quiet, maybe to turn the gain up. Other people are suggesting to refresh your stream, and that might fix it on your end.
Yeah, because on our end, the mixer shows that it's coming in normally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm seeing a flood of comments in the chat talking about the audio.
I'm seeing about 50-50 people saying it's fine and people saying it's low. It could be one of those things you just need to get used to as well. But
Or
yeah, we are
refresh it.
tweaking it. Yeah, refresh
I
it
don't know.
for sure. Yeah.
We can you can turn the master up.
Yeah, you do that.
Or the gain. Someone suggested turning up the
Oh, yeah.
gain.
How's that?
Oh, that's louder.
Is that too
Hey.
loud?
Oh.
I got a lot louder.
Yeah, I can turn everybody down a little bit in the
Thanks.
headphones. There we
Well,
go.
we're actually we should turn that way down.
That might help.
Yeah, there we go. All right, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, we'll have to. Apologies for everybody. We'll have to sort it because we are trying to get the audio fixed, and I don't know. It's just you have to do it in order to hear the audio and then get the feedback to fix it. So
Yep.
everyone was complaining before that we had like our audio levels would like fluctuate, and so we're like we got to get someone to come in and standardize it, and so now people are probably like noticing the audio is different.
It's just different.
Great. Looks like you
yeah.
fixed it.
Woo.
Wow, and the comments are coming in. Yeah, it
There
sounds
we go.
better.
I don't
Nice.
know.
Alright.
I didn't really do anything.
Just
You
tweaked
turned
it.
up a little bit, yeah. Such a minor thing.
I did what I could.
Well, we appreciate
Hope this
it.
works for you guys.
We got it.
Type 1 if it sounds great in chat.
There you go. Perfect.
Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Let's talk
Moving on.
about the leftists because, believe it or not, there's a difference between liberals and leftists. And a lot of people don't really differentiate, and I think it's because liberals and leftists voted together.
Yep.
And now that Trump's gone, they're not going to. But here's, you hate to see it. Oh, these poor young 20-something DSA types. A lot of these people who are Democratic socialists, this is their first foray into politics. They're in their early 20s. You know, we've had some people here on the show, and you know, I'll be talking to them, and these leftists, and I'll say, you know, look, during the Obama era, you had with Occupy Wall Street, blah blah blah, and I'll say a bunch of things, and they'll go, I was 10, and I'm like, oh, you were 10 years old, huh? Like, yeah. So I have no idea what that is. I'm like, okay. So they come into this thinking Joe Biden is their path towards getting what they want, not realizing that's not true. It's never been true. It's been 50 years, but they have no political experience, but they can vote. So what do we get now? Over on CNBC, student debt forgiveness isn't in Biden's annual budget. Here's why experts say that's not surprising. Well, this expert says that's not surprising because Biden is duplicitous and the Democrats lie in order to get elected. Not like Republicans don't, but Democrats do it. So all of these young DSA people thought they were going to get student loan forgiveness. They were like, we want $50,000. And then Biden was like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. And then they voted for him. And then he's like, well, we'll probably just do $10,000. And then he's like, nah, we're getting you nothing.
Well, by the way, do these young DSA types think that like Cindy McCain and all the establishment Republicans who couldn't vote for Trump and were voting for Biden, do you think they were voting for that agenda? No, absolutely not. This is not surprising to anybody who's been paying attention.
Well, we all know that Bill Kristol's a huge fan of student debt forgiveness.
Right? Oh, absolutely. This is number one issue. Like, yeah.
And Joe Walsh and Adam Kinzinger and all of these other rhinos, they vote Democrat all the time because conservatives became socialists? Or is it because the establishment is the party of the ultra wealthy and they're going to sell you out to gain political power? And hey, you don't got to like Trump, but at least Trump was like a Molotov cocktail in the system.
Well, and
That's what you-
by the way, look. I'm no fan of Bernie Sanders, and I'm no fan of Bernie Sanders' policies. But the one thing I'll appreciate about Bernie Sanders is I actually think he believes in what he says. Now, I think most of that stuff is completely insane, but I respect the fact that he actually will walk the walk.
I don't think so. I used to think that. I used to be a fan of Bernie back in 2015-16. And then he just started flip-flopping. You know, so he went up on stage, one of the most famous moments, and he said, if you're white, you don't know what it's like to be poor. And I'm like, okay, that's a weird departure from where Bernie used to be when he was like fighting for unions in the working class. Now he's espousing woke garbage that makes no sense. And he endorsed Hillary Clinton. And I'm like, okay, he's got no spine. You know, Bernie might believe these things, but a jellyfish with good ideas is still a jellyfish. And I'm not going to vote for it.
No, and I'm not saying the DSA types would have been disappointed with Bernie because Bernie would have run a campaign that would have been trying to attract those suburban women voters who just couldn't bring themselves to voting for Donald Trump. Which, by the way, I'm proposing a constitutional amendment that suburban women can no longer vote.
Yes. Excellent.
It would automatically
Only suburban women.
only suburban women. It would fix both parties would be fixed immediately.
Awesome.
So it's not as what is it, the 19th? It's
Yeah,
not
it's
as
not quite.
Yeah, it's not as extreme as when people say
No, but if you're getting
just
if you're getting your political opinions by watching Bravo, like if that like, and it's fine, watch Bravo, but if that's where you're getting your political opinions from, I think you really shouldn't be voting.
I mean, you know, I've been thinking about it quite a bit. Are you familiar with the Starship Troopers?
Mm-hmm.
So we've brought that up a lot, service guaranteed citizenship. And I used to be like, no, people need to vote, but the Democrats go too far with it, right? They want everyone to be able to like sit in their chairs, eyes half open, and then a guy drops a letter on their chest and they go, just stamp, and then they hand it back. Like, there's got to be some effort involved. But now the more that I think about it, I'm like, there's got to be some skin in the game for voting. Because what happens is people will move into, you know, a city. They'll live in New York. New York falls to crap. So they'll move somewhere where it's nice, vote for crap, it falls to crap, and then they leave again. You effectively have a group of people that act like, you know, they go from place to place, destroying it, and then leaving. And then it's really difficult to repair things politically. Like most machines, it's really easy to break. It's really hard to fix.
Well, and fundamentally, you'd think this would be easy. I mean, if you're leaving New Jersey and New York because you hate New Jersey and New York, I mean, it's not because you suddenly decided that you can't stand the weather anymore or that you don't like the corner deli. It's because you hate the way that the state's been run into the ground. So yeah, move to Texas if you want, but don't vote for the same kind of politicians who ruined New York. And that's what we're seeing all across the country. Every one of these censuses where they're showing like, oh, well, North Carolina's adding people, Florida's adding people, Georgia's adding people. It makes me nervous because they're not moving from West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, people are leaving West Virginia.
right?
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
They lost a ton of
Is that a good thing? I think it might be a good thing.
as long as it keep. I mean, I don't.
Who are the kind? So I read this story from, I think it was the AP, and it was like West Virginia saw the biggest exodus of any state.
Yes.
And I was reading it, and people were saying like, I'm sick of being in this place where they just want guns and blah. I'm like, those people are leaving. That's good news.
Though I'll say this about West Virginia, and I told you I live a mile from West Virginia. I walk into West Virginia from my backyard. I think it's interesting when you find these enclaves of like progressivism in a place like West Virginia. They realize they have to live with their neighbors. They realize that they're vastly outnumbered. Like, conservatives are tolerant of liberals that they disagree with. You know, you go to Harper's Ferry, you go to Berkeley Springs, you go to Thomas, West Virginia, or Davis. There's all kinds of little enclaves of progressivism, and it's completely and totally accepted by the conservatives who run the state.
Yeah.
Go to places like D.C. and try to walk around with a "Make America Great Again" hat on. Like, it ain't gonna happen. Like,
Well, this is actually a problem conservatives have. They're unfortunately too tolerant.
yeah,
And that's true. The Democrats will try and claim that the Republicans are fascists and racist, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I see these memes from the left where they're like, Republicans, they'll lie, cheat, and steal to gain power, and I'm like, they haven't had any power in how long? And they just don't do anything.
And they won't do those things. Look, Nancy Pelosi will use whatever tools are available to her, even if they cross the line, even if they're an abuse of power. I mean, look, her deciding to strip the committee assignments from Marjorie Taylor Greene for things that she said, not since she was in Congress, but things that she said before she got elected. The voters who elected her knew what she said, and the Democrats decided to strip her of her committee assignments. If a Republican did that, people would be up in arms. No Republican would ever do that.
What if a Democrat said offensive things while they were in Congress, like, I don't know, Ilhan Omar?
Ilhan Omar. Or Maxine Waters, who's been pushing crazy conspiracy theories for decades.
Republicans are too weak, man. The Republican politicians, they're I don't remember who said this, but they're more concerned about the opinion of the New York Times than they are of their own constituents.
Absolutely.
So what happens is Nancy Pelosi shrieks and her hair stands on end, like she's like floating around like a banshee, and everyone's just like, terrified. And then when Ilhan Omar does something, she calms down and, well, let's be reasonable. And the Republicans are like, that's not fair. Anyway, is that it? There's no screeching banshees on the Republican side who are going to float around and scream. So
well, again, it's, and by the way, this was I love President Trump, but this was a Trump fault. You hit the nail on the head. Too many Republicans care about what the New York Times says about him. It's like Trump would be talking to Maggie Haberman at the New York Times.
Yep.
And I'm like, why are you talking to Maggie Haberman? Like, she hates you pathologically. She despises you. She will never write a good story about you. And yet he still would, because he wanted to see that good story.
It's like sad cringe. It's like
it is.
These Republicans are desperate to be accepted by the establishment political class. So they beg the New York Times, I know you're woke, but I'll pretend to be woke a little bit. Not all of them. There's a handful of good ones. So we recently saw Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They refused to wear masks. Nancy Pelosi fined Marjorie Taylor Greene $500, then $2,500. Yet she's on video in the White House with no mask on, hugging people, and everyone. Nobody's wearing masks. They're all partying. This is the problem. The Democrats have double standards. If they didn't have double standards, they'd have none at all. And the Republicans don't do anything.
No, absolutely
There's
not.
speed bumps for Democrats.
Absolutely. And by the way, look, when I heard Pelosi give her explanation for why that she was not going to remove the mask mandate, she said it's a question of the honor system. And am I just going to trust that these people have gotten vaccinated? Here's the thing. You don't have to worry. The CDC said if you've gotten vaccinated, you don't have to worry about unvaccinated people. So here's Nancy Pelosi standing there saying something that contradicts her,
The science.
the science. All these people talking about, like, we got to follow the science, follow the science. Again, if Trump had said something like that, it would be nonstop coverage for 3 days about how Trump is ignoring the science. Nancy Pelosi says it, and the media just brushes it off.
There was a study done in France, and TechCrunch wrote about it. It was this little-known drug called hydroxychloroquine. And Trump just passively said, the study's looking very great. It's looking good. Maybe we'll see something. And the media went nuts. Donald Trump is recommending medicine. Oh, no, people are going to die. Bro, there's people outside of 7-Elevens giving vaccines. And I'm like, hold on, man. If you're going to undergo any kind of medical procedure, albeit a minor one, like a vaccine, go to your doctor first, because, I was reading about some kid who had an allergic reaction or something, or was like, was told by his doctor, he'd be like, be careful. I forgot what it was, something to do with eggs. I don't know. And there's a video where, like, these army guys walk into a 7-Eleven and then just, like, give the guy behind the counter a vaccine. And I'm like, you were complaining about Donald Trump talking about news from TechCrunch. And now this is going on. Can't you just say vaccines are great? Go talk to your doctor to figure out what's best for you. They don't do that.
No.
They will smear Trump and attack him in the most extreme ways and claim Trump's had to inject bleach in your veins. And then they'll come out and, like, do the exact opposite. We don't got fighters, though, man.
No, we don't. And by the way, we never have. And the only good side of that is that's how we ended up with Trump. We ended up with Trump because after decades of not having fighters, the base said, okay, who's the one candidate that they don't want us to vote for? Trump. That's the guy they all hate. So we're going to give them the one guy they say we can't vote for.
Do you remember the Michael Moore speech from 2016?
Which one was that?
So Michael Moore's speech, he said that, Donald Trump walks into these auto manufacturers and he says, if you move your cars overseas, I will tax you 30% and no one will ever buy your car again. And the people of Michigan heard that. And that's the first time anyone ever stood up to these companies. And so they saw Trump, now I'm paraphrasing, that people saw Trump as the biggest FU to the establishment, a human Molotov cocktail to be thrown in the system. And he was. And the system, boy, did they react. They flipped out.
Look, I always tell people I voted for Trump. There's a lot of policy things that I voted for Trump based on. But even bigger than that, I voted for him to be the wrecking ball taken to the system. And he accomplished it in spades. He completely and totally exposed the media. He exposed the establishment of the Republican Party. He exposed the dirty way that politics has been played in this country for decades and decades and decades. And we're never going to go back. The base of the Republican Party that voted for Trump let all the monkeys out of our cages, and they're never going to be able to put us back again.
Let's talk about the establishment. Let's talk about this story from The Hill. So The Hill is described by NewsGuard as an 80 out of 100 in terms of credibility. They don't regularly correct their errors, and they don't disclose their financing, but for the most part, they're a very, very reputable outlet. Fauci bombshell. not convinced COVID-19 developed naturally outside Wuhan lab. Interesting. I seem to recall a president. What was his name? He was orange. He had the weird hair. Donald Trump, who said they were investigating this theory, and then it was the this one paper of merit and repute that says democracy dies in darkness, that claimed over and over again it was a conspiracy theory, and CNN and Reuters and a bunch of all these other outlets alluded to or insinuated or outright said lab leak is a conspiracy theory. Right-wing media sites, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because Donald Trump said it. It was a story in the Washington Post I remember reading that actually said questions rise about a potential lab leak. There was a story in the Daily Mail which said something similar. And then Donald Trump had to open his mouth, and the media, as we were talking about with Don Lemon, they built themselves off of, I can just imagine it. You're sitting in the editorial meeting. It's like, so it's 9 a.m. and you walk in and there's President Zucker. All right, guys, what's in the news today? Well, we got this interesting story about a potential lab leak, that COVID may have come from a lab. Really? Wow. Now, run with it. That's a huge story. What else we got? Donald Trump said the lab leak. Whoa, stop. He runs out, catches the guy. No, don't run that story. Don't run that story. Come back to the meeting. Then go back in. Okay, Donald Trump pushed unhinged conspiracy theory. Roll it. So all of a sudden, stories that were either based in fact, this is the craziest thing. Donald Trump would read the news. You know, Ian Crossland does backflip. Then he'd go out and be like, this guy Ian, you see him? This Ian does a backflip. It's amazing. And they'll be like, Ian does front flip. Trump lies. And you're just like, what is this? That's what they built themselves off of. So now we have Fauci. I think this is his 10th or 12th flip-flop. Fauci has, you could make a video. This is someone should do this. If you're listening, someone do this. Take all the video clips of Fauci advocating a position and then put it next to Fauci advocating the opposite position and have him debate himself.
So Louder with Crowder actually did that.
Oh, he did it.
Put it together. Yeah, they put it into a clip. They beat us to it. I know.
There you go.
Great. Yeah.
Well, and what's so amazing is that it hasn't just been Fauci. I mean, Kamala Harris was talking about how she wasn't sure whether she would take the vaccine that was developed under Trump. And then they have the audacity to be talking about, we've got these vaccine skeptic people. Oh, really? Really? You spent the last year telling people it would be 5-10 years before we got a vaccine. If it was before then it probably wasn't going to be trustworthy because Trump can't be trusted. Now they want people to completely and totally forget about that and say, you got to go out and you got to get your vaccine. Well,
now they want people to be drunk.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Go to the bar and give them free beer, or it's out in front of a 7-Eleven. It's like, okay. I do find it funny that a lot of the people who are opposed to getting the vaccine were Trump supporters or are Trump supporters, and then a lot of the people who are getting it won't give Trump credit for doing the job. To be fair, a lot of people always bring up, you can support them producing a vaccine, but still think it should be a choice, like the doctor should decide.
Yeah, but that's not what they were saying during the campaign. They were saying that Trump was lying to people about getting a vaccine. We were never going to have a vaccine by January of 2021. We had Kamala Harris out there talking about how who knows if it'd be safe. I'm not sure whether I would trust.
And wasn't it Biden too? Like Biden, Kamala, like Cuomo. They had all been like, I don't know. You got to wait for the science. I think a bunch of Democrats came out and said it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I started tweeting that they were anti-vaxxers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but this is essentially all of their positions were dictated by, as you pointed out, what Trump said. If Trump had actually come out and said, you want to know what, vaccines are going to be bad, they would have been telling us we're going to have a vaccine tomorrow. It's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like, everything that all of their positions were premised on whatever Donald Trump was for. It's, by the way, it's why the Democratic Party has had this bizarre flip-flop on suddenly becoming the party of foreign intervention all over the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Trump was against foreign interventionism. So now Bill Kristol feels at home in the new Democratic Party.
I gotta give a shout out to the Babylon Bee again, because we have this satirical article. Ingenious move. Trump supports impeachment, forcing Democrats to oppose. Isn't that really what it was?
Again, that seems like insane, but it also hits so close to home. I mean,
so this Fauci thing about the lab leak is, in my opinion, it shouldn't be news. Fauci is a very dumb and dangerous person. He was the one who. Hold on, let me slow down. Fauci lied about masks. This is a fact that Fauci has admitted to. That early on he told people not to wear masks. I love this. He then came out later and said, well, we wanted people to not buy the masks so that the medical professionals could have them. Why do medical professionals need masks? Why do the medical professionals need professionals need those masks? Anybody?
So they don't breathe pathogens into open wounds while they're doing surgery.
So because of COVID, right?
They don't want to pass disease.
But why do they need more than they already have? Why was it so important that we get all of these masks, not to the people, but to the medical professionals? The insinuation is the medical professionals needed more masks than usual.
Right.
What was happening that was alarming everybody that made us think doctors needed more masks?
This is why I didn't
there was a
Fauci
pandemic.
from the beginning. Yeah.
There was a pandemic going on. Now, how do you prevent the pandemic? You get regular people to wear masks. So if Fauci came out and said, you should all be wearing your masks right away, then the doctors would not have needed so many because people wouldn't be dying in hospitals because they didn't have masks. Fauci admitted he wanted the doctors to have them because he's a moron, because he doesn't understand cause and effect. And now all of these people line up as though his word is gospel. Let me just reiterate that. If from the beginning Fauci said, just wear a mask, the doctors would not have needed as many because there would be less sick people in hospitals. He lied, people died, and it contributed to the overwhelming of the system. This guy is a moron who thinks he's smart, and all he does is he repeats what the news said, but 2 days later. I've made that point since the mask thing reversal happened. I was like, is this guy just coming out and repeating what he saw on CNN 2 days ago? And now here we are again. We have this story about Fauci saying, I'm not convinced the virus, originated naturally. Oh, is it because the news broke in the past few months that lab leak was a real potential and now Fauci flip-flops again? My absolute favorite. Fauci is on a show and he gets asked, should people wear two masks? And he goes, it's just common sense that if you want to layer and you have to, it would provide more protection. Then he goes on another show. There's no data suggesting 2 masks is better and it is not being recommended. And then a few days, like 10 days later, the CDC recommends 2 masks. The dude is so dumb. He is on every side of the debate and he is responsible for many people in cities being dead because he said don't wear masks for a stupid reason.
Well, and by the way, look, it's not just around masks that people ignored the science, that Fauci and our overlords ignored the science. I mean, from the very beginning, we knew that the survivability rate from COVID was incredibly high, that people who were the most at risk were the elderly and people who had multiple comorbidities. From the very beginning, our effort should have been to protect those people.
What did Cuomo do?
He put those people in the worst situation possible. Said, "Hey, sick, let's shove them back into rest homes, and we'll get other people sick, and more people will die."
We had Janice Dean on.
Oh, she's so good.
But you know about her in-laws.
Yeah, she lost both of her in-laws
because I'm just going to say Cuomo murdered those people.
Yep.
He was advised this would kill people. He had the option to use the Javits Center or what was it, the Mercy?
Yep.
That he didn't do it. Because he didn't want to help Trump.
Of course, absolutely. New York was struggling, and Trump, being the executive, sent things to New York at the Javits Center, at the with the Mercy that they never used. They didn't, and again, because politics was more important than people's lives.
Doesn't this constitute? There was this Princeton professor years ago said we're in a cold civil war. We refer to it as the culture war, but we refer to it as war because people have, there's Cold War and there's hot war, and people have been killed, and there has been a lot of violence. But we're not at a point where it's like a traditional hot war where there's like armed factions or anything. But maybe it's because we're becoming too blind to what conflict actually looks like. Maybe conflict looks like a governor knowingly putting sick people in nursing homes, killing 15,000 people. Maybe warfare looks like Democrats advocating for the secession of the West Coast. This is John Podesta, reported by the Boston Globe, if Donald Trump wins. Maybe this is the media lying. Maybe this is Fauci flip-flopping. Maybe it is your political leaders willing to let you die for political power. And it's 2 different factions. There's a bunch of smaller sub-factions within the parent factions. Unfortunately for those that oppose the Democrats, the Republicans are mostly a bunch of jellyfish flopping around doing nothing. So instead, we sit here and watch as Cuomo literally, knowingly puts sick people in nursing homes, resulting in 15,000 dead. And the dude gets a book deal.
And an Emmy.
And an Emmy.
He won an Emmy.
There's no justice.
No one. And by the way, look, this guy is still first off, what he did with the nursing home scandal is absolutely unbelievable. You'd think that any decent governor would resign. how many women now have come out and
Well,
claimed
Newsom and Wolf.
Yeah, like
is- and
there's no accountability. And Democrats learned a long time ago they don't have to be accountable. The media is not going to hold them accountable. So if the media is not going to hold them accountable, why should they bother? Ralph Northam is still the governor of Virginia. He's out there, Terry McAuliffe's out there touting his endorsement, and this is the guy who is either in blackface or in the KKK outfit.
Yeah, which one? I don't
Yeah.
think it matters. I think either way, the guy's got to get out of there, but they don't care. Yeah,
No.
Donald Trump. No, he's the racist.
Right. Yes. Not the governor who, his nickname in undergrad was Coon Man. That was his nickname, Coon Man. And then, by the way, you remember after he admitted that it was him, then 24 hours later he came out and said, actually, I thought about it some more. I don't think it actually was me. But there was this other time that I did blackface, but that was just for a party. And I'm like, is this for real? I was like, man, this guy's done. Like 24 hours.
No. It's tribalism.
Yeah.
It is so deeply tribal that socialists have aligned themselves with the 1%, the wealthy elites, because they hate Donald Trump. It is the most insane thing. I mean, think about it. The Occupy Wall Street people, not all of them because it kind of split, but many of those activists are voting for Joe Biden. I'm like, yo, you guys protested that dude. I was there. I watched you protest that dude. Now you're voting for him.
Yep.
Well, because Trump is worse. What? Didn't you want to shake the system up and challenge the establishment? Donald Trump is a bull in a china shop. No. Trump is bad. He's a fascist. Whatever, man. It's been absolutely ridiculous for me to see these old activists who protested the 1% supporting, the Lincoln Project, David Frum, Bill Kristol. Like these Republicans are getting support from socialists.
Well, and by the way,
wonderful.
George W. Bush is now adored by the left and the media. This was Chimpy McHitler, remember?
Yeah.
Like all these people, all these innocent children died in the Middle East because Bush wanted a war for oil. Apparently, that's all's forgiven now. As long as you hate Trump, all is forgiven.
And now what we're gonna get from these. They're I said something about Democrats being dumb on Twitter. There was a story from MSNBC that said the GOP, pushes bill to make teaching the history of slavery, illegal, or to ban the teaching of slavery. And I'm like, clearly, that's not real.
Of course.
The actual story is critical race theory, which is an ideology, which is not fact. And these people watch MSNBC and they believe it. And that's like, the QAnon people believe insane things. Like, I'll tell you, man.
Absolutely.
I remember, every day after the election, I'd have people being like, dude, I'm telling you, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow, come like, where are you at, bro? I'm like, no, it's actually tomorrow. I'm like, oh, yeah, right, it's tomorrow, permanently. But they're not institutional. They don't have massive power. They're not holding up infrastructure. MSNBC is mainstream. They're pumping these people full of insane lies. So it's a good thing their ratings are collapsing. But it still leaves us holding this bag. We got this story from Human Events breaking from Jack Posobiec.
Oh.
Leaked State Department memo indicates official support for Black Lives Matter agenda. Do you want to know what one of their agenda items is? Disrupting the nuclear family. Is that part of the Biden administration? I mean, the dude's already a racist according to federal courts.
Right.
He's Biden. This is the craziest thing. The Biden administration has implemented relief funds for restaurants. Only if you're not white, though. If you're white, back of the line. So what happened is this one guy sues. The problem? They already gave out billions of dollars. So they have decided illegally, violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and unconstitutionally, to give money on the basis of race. And you can sue them, and you can stop them, but they already did it. So what?
Well, and by the way, Biden is the greatest Trojan horse ever. And here's why. They got the oldest, whitest guy in the entire world to be the one who's out there pushing critical race theory and official support for Black Lives Matter, because Joe Biden's not running this show. And the scary thing to me is, and this sounds like such a crazy conspiracy theorist. The crazy thing to me is, I know that Joe Biden's not running this show, and I know Kamala Harris isn't running this show. So I'm always left with who's actually making decisions in this, because there's really insidious stuff that's happening. Somebody is being very effective at their job.
Well,
we just don't know who it is.
But maybe not. Could it be that Joe Biden is so pathetic and weak that Black Lives Matter stuff can just waltz right in.
Yeah, but like somebody, the way that somebody's making these decisions, somebody is saying at some level, institutionally, let's make this part of this.
I think, so the alternative...
And it doesn't have to be one person who's in charge, by the way.
But the alternative to the conspiracy theory is the Standalone Complex, which is a bunch of people doing the same thing that looks like a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I really do think that it's not so much that we're looking at a nucleus in control, because Biden certainly does not exude nucleus in control. I think we're looking at the opposite, a fracturing and confusion, and the only thing people know is what's in the news. And the news is woke, 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 so they're just like, woke, I guess. But it's also kind of like a Mexican standoff. So you have a lot of people who probably hate wokeness, but they're scared of speaking out because they think they'll get canceled.
Yep.
So what you have is 100 people in a room all going, I'm woke, but deep down they're all anti-woke, but they're scared other people are woke. You see what it is?
Yep.
So I don't see it as a grand conspiracy because it's too ridiculous and nonsensical.
Well, and in a way, this may be the opposite side of the coin that Trump had when it came to staffing. Trump's number one issue was staffing. He relied on the establishment think tanks in D.C. to fill out his like mid-level and low-level political appointees. The result was a whole bunch of people who didn't believe Trump, who didn't like Trump, and who took it upon themselves to run their own little fiefdoms. The Biden administration, the progressives may have just done a really great job at making sure their people are the people who got hired. The true believers ended up there,
Yep.
I mean, it's not the Rahm Emanuel disciples who are in charge in the Biden administration.
I called it, I liken it to fire, in that it's just an expansive, chaotic, and destructive force that once it grabs onto something that can fuel its fire, it does. So it's fairly random. And it's spreading into the military. It's spreading into the State Department, to the Federal Reserve, which is like one of the weirdest stories. Do we have that? Yeah, we have that one right here. Look at this. Mm-hmm. Senate Republicans expand investigation into woke mission creep of Federal Reserve. Now that is the scariest thing. Because I'll tell you one thing. And Ian, he knows this. You can complain about the government being woke, and we can argue about it. Oh, this is bad. When the Federal Reserve gets woke, then I start. Yeah, then I'm getting worried.
Exactly. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Makes me think that it is intentional. I keep thinking about the Great Reset and the Bank of International Settlements, which basically oversees the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the Bank of Australia, and like, it's not no government has any oversight of what these organizations are doing. The Great Reset has blatantly said that they want to, I don't know how you describe it, but destroy the economic order and reinstill a new world where we own nothing and that we're all kind of subservient and everything's given to us on loan by some greater. That light just is popping on and off. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, whatever. Ian, you will own nothing and you will be happy.
Well, I hope that that's not the case, but dear Lord. And it seems like they're sowing dissent within the United States to break it up because the greatest resistance to that is this liberty that we've got.
I just don't think it's a conspiracy. I think there's no more strong leaders. There's no more social and moral cohesion. And so... I don't think there's a strong, powerful cabal of people that want to break it apart. I think it's a bunch of people grabbing, money from the vault as the building's on fire.
I would refer to that Time magazine article that specifically
the shadow campaign,
a cabal of people that are intentionally fortifying the election.
Well, I'll say this much: my colleague Brent Hamachek at Human Events wrote a really awesome article about how we're now all dissidents. The conservatives were dissidents. And he's got this great thing where everybody always talks about, like, well, there's more of us than them. Who cares that there's more of us than them? Because they control all of the levers of power in this country. Big business is run by the left. Academia is run by the left. Pop culture is run by the left. Like, they're in control of everything. So it doesn't take a conspiracy theory. What it takes is it takes a group of people who are all thinking the same way, who also happen to occupy the most powerful positions in the country. I mean, we always talk about like Fox News. That's great. We have like one Fox News. Yeah. Compare and Fox News does great, but compare like what Fox News's viewership is to what all the other left-wing media outlets are. And then you realize Fox looks like this and all of the left-wing organizations look like that. I mean, it is I think we've been lulled into this sense of believing that because there's more of us than them, that somehow is going to save us, and it's not.
So Ian's certainly not a conservative, and
Not really. Sometimes depends on the situation.
I don't think there's a sane argument for saying you're a conservative. I can certainly
You
say
know,
you have libertarian
I
overlap
support
with
like the
conservatives.
death penalty. That's kind of a conservative
Really?
view. Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I'm hardcore when it comes to military discipline and stuff.
Wow, I didn't realize the Ian hippie guy was like, kill them all.
Don't let the authoritarian out, Tim. I don't know. I don't think of myself as liberal, or I'm both liberal in certain situations which need it, and conservative when we want conservation and to maintain and retain.
My point is, conservatives certainly call me left wing, but left wings call me conservative because obviously I'm kind of in the middle. And so the conservatives actually have allies with disaffected liberals and moderates. Liberal people who have actually watched the news, surprise, surprise, end up joining like the likes of the intellectual dark web or becoming fans of it. But most of these people just watch MSNBC. Now here's the problem. There may be more of us on the freedom and individualism side than the constructivism, collectivism side. However, if we got 100 people on this side, of which 20 have spines, and they have 40 people on that side, of which 30 have spines, they're going to win those battles. Over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many celebrities I've talked to who are like, well, actually I can't, it's probably like 10 or 12, who are like, I believe everything you say, I'm a big fan of the show, but I can't speak up because I'll lose everything. And I'm like, then you don't deserve anything.
Correct.
You get to, what you're saying is, when you tell me this, guys, when you call me, you tell me this, you're telling me that you're okay extracting value from the system to live lavishly, because let's be real, you guys are rich. You're not suffering like the average American, and you won't give up your silver spoon to save your own country. Fine. Then you don't deserve it. And what is anyone going to do? Because they'll certainly wield the power. Not only do the leftist celebrities wield the power, but even leftist celebrities who also don't like it will just toe the line if it means cash in the bank.
Yeah, and also afraid that they'll come for them. I mean, look at how many times that the left has eaten one of their own. They'll do it. You know, I mean they have no problem sacrificing one of their own if it means it keeps 100 more of them in line.
Man, it's like, who would want to be part of the Borg? You know?
The metaphor I keep thinking is the World War II, the Russians and the Germans, and there were so many more Russians, as far as I know, and there were so much fewer Germans, but they had better technology. Whereas you see these people on the left have access to the media, they have the better technology, they have the tanks, the blitzkrieg, and then all these other people are technologically maybe less empowered. The Russians only won that war. Well, it's complicated, but they were allies, external allies, and they also won by war of attrition. By destroying what they love, burning their own cities to the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they could suffer the most losses in the war. So it's not.
It's the Zap Brannigan strategy. That sending wave after wave of your own men until you just overrun the enemy. They were like mass-produced trash tanks. The communist method was really just let the people die. Just mowing people into it. The capitalist and American strategy was have the efficient machine, have the efficient strategy, so we have air superiority and nuclear bombs. That means we minimize the risk to ourselves. The communists load them all up and send them out and just sacrifice wave after wave of your own men.
They didn't care. Just grind them all up. Just grind them all up.
It worked.
So it did. It's not pretty.
For only certain amount of time, though.
Yeah.
It may not be a good metaphor because if the people on the right were the it's just this ridiculous outside of the box metaphor, but like the cancel culture thing of just like keep going with it, keep saying what might get you banned online, and then they keep one by one taking these people out. It's just. I think this metaphor is not good.
Well, it's only.
Thanks for bearing with me.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
It's only a matter of time, because they control the institutions, till everybody's been.
So what? You cracked the code. The Allies cracked the code. That gave them some.
Google, Facebook, Twitter. They are slowly making excuses to purge people, and they have. This is what happens when you have a religion that is violent, oppressive, and extreme. Christians aren't that.
And the Nazis, violent, excessive, and extreme, actually ate themselves from the inside out. As you can see this leftists doing, they tried to kill Hitler. Like their own people tried to murder him, and that basically drove Hitler insane, and then made him start making poor decisions of leadership.
It's extremists.
And then they fell apart. So you could see that happening to this wokeness too. I could see that. They obviously go after each other, like you were saying earlier.
And I mean, I really do. It's I'm not always the most optimistic guy about this stuff. Like, I think politically, in the short term, I think we're gonna feel the pain for a while. And even if Republicans win back the House and the Senate, I have no faith in these people, none at all. So but long term, I do feel like that this like woke like push is going to undermine Democrats, because again, like I said, until we pass my amendment to outlaw suburban women from being able to vote, like they matter. And this critical race theory stuff being
until
pushed,
then,
right? This critical race theory stuff that's being pushed in public schools, like this is the type of stuff. And Democrats are starting to warn, liberal thinkers are starting to warn Democrats. You've got a lot of problems here. You've got like you are going to disaffect that base that you just relied on to get elected by pushing this critical race theory stuff. You run around teaching that this country is fundamentally a racist country, that it's that we're still a fundamentally racist country, that we're founded on racism. It's not simply teaching, slavery was terrible and the lessons learned from that, and Jim Crow was terrible, but that somehow we're beyond saving it. This country is just garbage.
It's really, I got a really simple solution for everybody. If you work for one of these companies, or you are a member of a school board, or you have kids in one of these schools, and you hear critical theory in general, file a complaint with the appropriate administration or organization. So if you work for a company and they announce they're doing critical race theory trainings, or if another employee brings up critical race theory, report them for racial harassment immediately. I'm not exaggerating. You go to your boss and say, Janet came and started spouting a bunch of racist stuff, and I demand you tell her to stop, otherwise I will file a complaint. You have been warned. And then you know what they'll do? They'll say, Janet, stop the racist stuff. And she'll go, I was arguing against race. I don't care what it is. Stop it.
Right.
People are getting mad.
That's why you have to use their own language against them. That's why whenever I see somebody like talking about critical race theory, like, yes, you accuse them of being racist because that's what they are.
But
our side won't do it though. They're like, oh, critical race theory it's a kind of bad thing. It's like, rather than saying like this is racist.
If you work for a company, here, I'll tell you what I would do, because we talked about this last week. If I worked for a company and the boss was like, we're doing a racial sensitivity training, I would be like, oh, this is going to be great. And I would go in, and no matter what they say, I would get offended. There was a training video, I guess. I think this was from Coke or something. I can't remember where I heard this, but someone was talking to me about, in the training, it explained racial stereotypes. It was like, people often think Latinos are lazy and said a bunch of things. I'm like, if you're Latino, you should immediately say, excuse me? Did we just get invited to your Klan rally so you can explain to people why people think Latinos are lazy? And then they'll have to shut it down. See, here's how it works. You give your boss a warning, and if they don't rectify the problem, then you inform them you're filing a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, I think it's called, EEOC, and then you go and file the complaint. Now, again, I've mentioned this before. Maybe someone at the administration at the EEOC is going to be super woke and then tell you to go screw yourself, and that's where it starts getting bad. But for the time being, you just go in, and you don't even got to be specific. You don't got to be, listen, if there was a guy, and he's a boss, and he's like a white progressive guy, and he's like, we're going to be doing, critical race theory diversity training, I'd be like, if you do that, I will be filing a complaint. And then when I file the complaint, I'll say he started spouting a bunch of extremely racist sentiment, talking about how some people of certain races were inherently bad or wrong, and it was bad to look this way and have this colored skin. What did he say specifically? I can't repeat it. Don't make me say it. That's it. Go to the boss. Go above your boss and say, he said a bunch of racist things. What did he say? I will not repeat it, but I have warned you. He is harassing and is racist. People need to do this, because guess what? It's not about using the language of the left. It's about, you could be sitting there and being like, man, that Chris Rock's a funny guy. Excuse me? And then they go and complain about cultural appropriation. And then your boss is going to be like, you really got to chill out on the racist stuff. And you're like, wait, what? I didn't say anything. Well, they complained about you being racist. So if they bring it up, complain about it.
The problem is our side has traditionally sucked at this. Because, by the way, because most of us just want to be left alone. We just want to do our own thing. Like, fine, you have opinions. I don't really like them. Whatever. It doesn't change my life. But you're right. We can no longer just sit back and let that happen. And because the fact that we've allowed ourselves to be rolled over to the point where it's not okay. We're not allowed to have opinions anymore that they don't like.
It's as if you're not willing to fight back.
I agree.
You know what really bothers me? I go through like some phases when I watch bullying, right? So I see a kid getting bullied, and the first thing I get mad about is the bully. Leave that dude alone. What's wrong with you? And then after like the 10th time, you know what I get mad at? The kid getting bullied. You know why? Bro, at a certain point, you've got to change what's happening. You can't keep walking up to the bully. Stop walking this direction. Stop going to the school, or stand up for yourself. But at a certain point, if you don't stand up for yourself, after all of this, I won't defend you. I'll get mad and I'll say you're on your own. And so I've talked about this with police. Like the cops in the Minneapolis area. They're getting defunded in Brooklyn Center. And you know what? I'm not going to defend them. Sorry. I defended them before the election. What did we see? In Philadelphia, they're experiencing one of the worst crime surges ever. So they re-elect in a landslide their progressive, soft-on-crime DA. Well, let's keep doing our fire hot, but let's try it again. Maybe fire not hot this time. I'm not going to defend the people of Philadelphia. I'm not going to defend those cops if they stick around and they get locked up for trying to arrest somebody. And look, at first, I'm going to be like, these people burning on these cities are awful. They're bad. They must be stopped. Then I watch in a landslide victory, the Democrats vote in the politicians who supported the riots, and I'm like, okay, it's all yours. Have a nice day.
Yeah, let the rich white people experience what they bought it. They paid for it. Let them have it. Like you look, if that's what you want. And but none of them actually want that.
Right.
None of them want that.
but
because they're all living in their estates and they're in the nice areas of town, and they're like they think they're immune from this stuff.
Well, but you know what's happening now? Wall Street Journal reported the areas that have experienced the worst surge in crime, black neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods.
Of course.
Not affecting the white progressive suburbs.
No.
So take away their cops. Take them. They want to abolish the police. You get what you ask for. Because I'll tell you what, I live in the middle of nowhere. We got guns. We're good. I'd prefer if it wouldn't have to be this way, but if they're advocating for abolishing the police, I'm going to take responsibility for myself. But going back to the stuff about critical theory, it's not just race theory, it's critical gender theory, it's critical theory as a whole, which is this Marxist philosophy, Frankfurt School, etc. It's really, really simple. You see a flyer on the wall that says white privilege or anything like that, you immediately file an anonymous complaint about racial harassment from the individual who put it up. You don't got to get specific. You can say they were spouting racist things, disparaging people on the basis of their race. It's a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and I'm upset about it. I think it's Title VII. And if they don't rectify it, you can file a complaint, and they will get in trouble. In New York, it's particularly serious. If you live in New York City, it's a $250,000 fine if they do not stop this behavior. So you warn your boss, say you work at Starbucks, and they're like, we're going to have a talk about white privilege. No, you're not, because if you say one more word, I will file a complaint for racial harassment. They'll be like, say it. I told you not to harass me. And then go file a complaint and say they were harassing people on the basis of their race, saying some employees were better than others on the basis of their race, some were worse than others. Boom, $250K out of their pocket. That's not even using their own tactics. That's just the law. And it's a law that today, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, basically everybody agrees with. It should be illegal to discriminate on the basis of race, except for the woke left. Nobody's fighting, though.
Yeah, but by the way, I'm 100% for using their own tactics. Look, I wish we lived in a place where the cancel culture didn't exist. But as long as cancel culture exists, then I'm for canceling liberals. I see this on Twitter all the time when people are like, "Stop celebrating! This person got fired because they had this position." No, I'm going to celebrate every single time one of theirs goes down. I'm going to celebrate because again, this is a war of attrition. And until they start feeling some of the pain, they're not going to change. The policies aren't going to change. They're not going to change what they're doing until enough of them start feeling the pain of it.
No, I don't think that's going to work. They sacrifice their own. They cancel their own.
They do, but eventually, eventually it's going to start. And we've seen it a little bit. When there'd be recently the woman who was the Hamas terrorist supporter at AP, who lost her job, and they're like, all these reporters are like, this is so terrible that somebody can't have their own opinion, blah blah blah. It's like, where were you guys? Like any conservative in the entire world gets fired for having objectionable opinions. This woman is actually a supporter of terrorism, and you're angry that she lost her job.
Could have sworn Marjorie Taylor Greene got stripped of her committees for things she said years before she got elected.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing how that is. But again, let them feel the pain from it.
I'm in favor of cancelers getting canceled, but I'm not in favor of leftists getting canceled for their opinions, because there's got to be a standard. If this is a leftist who is actively trying to get people fired and then they get fired, I will laugh and say, get out of here. I'm not going to help you. You're nuts. It's like the fire being put out by a controlled burn. We're happy about it. But if it's just some like, dumb commie Twitter account who says something communist, so they ban them, that's bad. That's really bad. There's got to be a line. So anybody who's for free speech, I'll protect their right to free speech. Anybody who's not, well then, you don't want my support anyway.
But the problem is that all of these people are for cancel culture themselves.
I'm saying if there is somebody who is like pro free speech.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, unfortunately, those people don't exist on the left anymore.
There's a little bit. There's a decent amount. Shoe on head. She's for free speech, so I will absolutely defend her at every turn for her right to speak and say what she wants to say.
I'll defend Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh,
there you go.
But I don't want Tulsi is like, she's got more spine than most of the Republicans on this stuff.
I know, which is embarrassing, by the way. It's absolutely embarrassing that the
progressive Democrat Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah,
she's progressive. She's for gun control. She's
for socialized medicine.
Yeah.
She's not conservative. But again, I think this is where some of the breakdowns on the political partisan battles these days aren't on these like traditional left-right axis. It's not like it's a whole bunch of, are you pro-life? Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-this, pro-that? Like, some of this stuff really is crossing all of those lines. Yeah. And for us to win, we need more of the Tulsi Gabbards. We need more of the Tulsi Gabbards saying, like, you know what, this is ridiculous. Like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago saying she's only going to give interviews to reporters of color. Like,
can you name a Republican who's called out the anti-white racism from a politician ever? No. I can't. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. Tulsi Gabbard said this is anti-white racism, and she should resign. It should be condemned. Everyone should come together. And it's like, yeah, Tulsi, we know, but they're not. They're not. No one's playing fair. They're, like, the Republicans aren't playing at all. They're sitting on their hands, and the Democrats are just trying to burn it down.
Right. Well, and by the way, like, again, this is because Democrats, when they get power, are willing to use every tool available to them, and our side won't. Which is why I said, like, even if we went back to the House and Senate, I have no faith. I
think of it like this: like, you vote, like, there's a bank, and you vote for the Democrats because they're promising to run. When we run the bank, everyone's going to get a higher interest rate. You're all going to get 10%. Wow! And then as soon as they get in, you just watch them like going into the vault and carrying out stacks of cash, and you're like, where are you going? What are you doing? And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to vote for the Republican next time because these people are just taking money from the vault. Then you vote for Republicans, and they're just like sitting on the toilet on their phones, and you can't find them. You're like, what's going on? Like, the Democrats are still looting the vault, and then they're all just all in the bathroom on their phones because they don't want to actually do their jobs. So who do you vote for? I feel like it really does feel like it's on purpose, but I think the reality is the Democrats are just looting the vault. You vote for them, and they run in, and they grab as much as they can, and they run out. They sign bills that guarantee their future. They're extracting the system, and it's getting worse. So, my friends, I bring you to the the never-ending story. How about that? Of San Francisco. I remember the first time I heard about San Francisco's poop patrol. Do you know about San Francisco's poop patrol?
Yeah.
So they, like, some cities have a fire department. Everybody's got a fire department. Maybe you got a volunteer fire department. You're living up on a mountain or something. Maybe you got a local police department or a sheriff's department. San Francisco has a poop department. It is a publicly funded poop unit that goes around with specialized tools for cleaning up human waste because their streets are littered with it. The New York Times reports, San Francisco's shoplifting surge. The mundane crime of shoplifting has spun out of control in San Francisco, forcing some chain stores to close. I believe it was, 17 Walgreens stores?
Yeah.
Because the police said they're no longer going to arrest people for these petty crimes. You see a video of these women in Walgreens, and they're just shoveling makeup products, cosmetics, into bags because the cops won't come. They're not going to bother with it anymore. The Democrats said, the police system is oppressive. Let's not have it. And so you don't.
Well, so in New York, apparently there was a series of shoplifting things that were happening. So more of like the CVS's and Walgreens were starting to put more stuff behind lock and key. And Cynthia Nixon, being the great limousine liberal that she is, tweeted out about how she went to her corner CVS and she saw stuff behind lock and key.
Yes.
And she was so offended at this time that people were struggling to make ends meet that they thought that this was the best way to handle it. I mean, that's why, like, when people say liberalism is disorder, I'm like, that's so not nice to say. And then I'm like, actually, but it may be a disorder.
But we can't let them take the word liberalism because that's certainly not what it is.
I know, but like the idea that you see things behind lock and key in a CVS, and instead of thinking about isn't this terrible that we have this scourge of shoplifting to the point that shop owners are required to put stuff behind lock and key? Instead, you think, isn't it awful at this time when people are struggling to eat that people feel like they have to hide things?
This is the cycle of Democrats. Here's what happens. Someone shoplifts and gets arrested. And then people outside are filming. And the person's screaming, "My hands, you're hurting me, I can't breathe." And they're like, "This is bad. He was only shoplifting. Like, this is crazy. Like, what are these cops doing?" So then they all protest, and they smash a bunch of windows, and they burn places down. And the city says, people, we've heard your cries. We will no longer arrest shoplifters. Then all of a sudden, and this is actually what happens, Walgreens sees a wave of shoplifting. And so then Walgreens puts things behind locked cages, and then people start filming it going, Walgreens is racist. They are racist because the only things that they're covering up are the products used by minority communities. It's like, but there's no cops to stop the shoplifting, so they have to lock the products up now. Now you're complaining about what you advocated for? That's the system. They say, we must abolish the police because the police are oppressive. Then crime skyrockets. See, the police weren't doing anything anyway. They weren't keeping our community safe. No, you got rid of the cops. You defunded them. You abolished them. What are you complaining about now?
Yeah, the left is completely predicated on building coalitions of victims. So all their policies have to be geared towards creating new victims. No one can ever graduate from victimhood. It's why, like, look, gay people for years and years and years said, if we get the right to marry, the right to openly serve the military, like, our work here is going to be done. When they said, actually, now it's LGBTQ,
IAA plus
right.
2.
Because you can't, no one's ever allowed to leave. You're never allowed to graduate out of victimhood. The fact is that gay people in this country have more freedoms than any other country in the entire planet. They've been the most successful civil rights movement of all time in record time. People should be high-fiving. Instead, you've got the left trying to convince them that, actually you're still oppressed.
My favorite article, I think it was from The Root. It said, black men are the white people of black people.
Yeah.
Like something like that. And it was like, wait, what? They needed to find some kind of power dynamic. The woke left, so it's not all of them, but they do align behind this. They only believe that there is no truth but power. So that was a fascistic ideology, that the only thing that mattered was power, because truth is irrelevant if you could remove anyone who believed the truth. The left doesn't believe in objective reality. And I mean, like, overall, there are obviously some leftists who are like anti-woke communists, but it doesn't matter because they still vote for Biden, who then puts in woke policy. They don't believe in objective reality. They do believe in power dynamics. They literally follow tenets of fascism. Now, I know they're not ultra-right nationalists, so spare me, leftists, when you're like, that's not true, you're dumb. They are authoritarian, race-based identitarian, generalized identitarian, and they have fascistic tendencies. Call it whatever you want, I don't care. They're psychopaths.
Well, it's like the left is also, years ago, the left decided to adopt this politics of intersectionality, where you had to be for everybody else's agenda. The right has always been this coalition of kind of diverse, like, I'm the gun people and the abortion people, and they can agree on this and disagree on that. And it's always been this kind of raucous coalition of folks. The left decided a long time ago that they had to stamp out any opposition to each other. Everyone, you couldn't just be like, I'm the pro-choice Democrat. You also had to be, I'm the pro-everything else. And you had to be at 100%. And that's why they've been so effective, is because they've made, like, what does, the Human Rights Campaign, it's the largest LGBT organization in the country, takes all kinds of positions on crap that have absolutely nothing to do with gay people whatsoever, because the left has been so effective at intersectional politics.
Yep.
You have to buy in on everything.
Well, this is the example I love to give is an organization called Free Press, freepress.net. What do you think an organization called freepress.net advocates for as a nonprofit?
Sounds like freedom of the press.
So would you be surprised at all to learn that they advocated for the censorship of Alex Jones? Wow. I remember when I saw that, I know people there, and I hit them up. I'm like, why are you guys advocating for censorship? And like, hate speech is bad. I'm like, isn't that just press? Like, I don't get it. What's the difference between your opinion and their opinion? Well, they're hate speech. I'm like, free press. It doesn't say free press for some. I guess that's what it changed. They changed intersectionality.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you had to support all of the causes.
Yep.
Even if it defied your own principles were gone. And then I love it. I had a meeting with some people from Vice, and they're like, I don't know, man. Like, people change. You know, it's like that stuff doesn't fly. And I was like, bro, do you think maybe you changed? And then these two people were like, yeah. There was an article in Vice about an app that you take a picture of a woman, and then it uses AI to show her topless. And they called it like this horrible app shows a woman topless. And then I was like, you see that article? I was like, do you know what Vice would have titled that article in 2012? This amazing app shows you women topless. Because it was meant to be in your face, edgy, angry. Something happened to Vice where they became feminists. And that's when they were like, yeah, you're right. But we can't do that anymore. And I was like, of course you can. You're scared. Like, why can't you do it? Your ratings are in the gutter. Your views are in the gutter. Clearly, people liked the punk rock F you attitude. And what did you give them instead? Demure, scared feminism? Yeah, that's exactly what's going to save your company. Now they're in the gutter. The Disney wrote off their $500 million whatever investment in Vice to zero. Congratulations, getting woke. Was it worth it?
Well, because it
won't go broke.
Same things happened in comedy. You know, I mean, comedy has been absolutely ruined by the woke left. You know, and it's why the handful of people who, you know, push back against woke are actually like some of the most powerful activists in this country, which is so crazy. I mean, at its base, like, comedy was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be equal opportunity offenders, pick on everybody, like slaughter all the sacred cows.
Yeah.
Instead, you watch like late night, you know, TV over the last 4 or 5 years. They're telling the same joke on every channel every night. SNL is unwatchable from start to finish, and it has been because the number one point of comedy was to make people laugh, and instead they decided the number one point had to be to toe
Clapter. It's called clapter. It's where people aren't laughing at the jokes. They're clapping because they agree with the political message.
Right.
So these comedy shows during the Trump era, like SNL, they would get Alec Baldwin to do this impression that in no way resembled Trump. It was the weirdest thing. Like, Trump wouldn't ever just freeze and then hold his mouth open in a weird way. That didn't happen. So Alec Baldwin was just making fun of the guy. Like, he wasn't doing an impression. It was just people laughing because they hated Trump. There was no substance. There was no humor. Well, I shouldn't say there's no humor. If you find it funny, fine. But it was clapter. They would get a guy on stage. It'd be like, Trump is so dumb. And then everyone would go, and they'll all laugh and clap at each other. And it's like, okay, well, when you look at all the other late night hosts, and it's all the exact same thing. And John Oliver is like the worst. That guy just like lies. All the time. It's hilarious how awful the show is. It's formulaic. Little Timothy over here says Trump is bad, and everyone laughs, and I'm like, well, what's funny about that?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though, is that, like, I mean, I would love by the way, if Alec Baldwin had actually done a good Trump impression, I would have laughed.
Yeah.
The impression he did actually got worse as it went along.
He wasn't doing an impression.
No, it was like the same thing. And again, like, I laughed all the time. I enjoy comedy that makes fun of everybody. There's plenty of things to make fun of Trump about that could have been funny. But it never was, because it was all about the political. It was all about trying to get the clap, the applause line. It's like after the Hillary Clinton loss, you know, and the SNL did the skit with, you know, the woman coming out, you know, as Hillary and like singing the song to and it was like, what am I watching? Like, what is funny about this?
We got this art on the wall. You guys can't see it in the cameras, but it's from George Alexopoulos, and it's one part of a comic about Trump. It's Trump struggling to eat what appears to be like broccoli, and he can't. He's wearing a bib. It says Bib Boy. In the original comic, he says, like, my hands are too small, and he's struggling to eat it. What's funny about this is it's not really making fun of Trump. It's making fun of the left as they would make fun of Trump. So when I look at it, I laugh, but I'm not laughing because Trump has little hands and wears a bib. I'm laughing because that's the garbage joke the left had. It was the only thing they had. You turn on Family Guy, Trump was orange, literally, massively fat with tiny little hands, and I'm like, who are you talking to?
Right.
Trump doesn't have little hands. I get the joke the first time, but is that it? That was it.
That was it.
They were just there. It is like a bunch of drones all being with the applause sign flashing. That's what Tiny Hands was. They'd go, hey Ian. Yeah. Tiny Hands.
Oh, yeah.
Ah! And it's like, okay, that's not. I get it. Whatever.
Apparently,
No joke.
comedy's crushing it in Texas right now. The Creek in the Cave. Are you familiar?
Oh, is that
New York
Rogan's?
City? Well, no, it was an independent thing run by Rebecca out in New York, and they shut down because of COVID, and reopened in Austin. And now
Wow.
they're
Nice.
I keep hearing it's apparently one of the hottest spots in Austin right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, but you do have some people who are willing to say F you and kind of push the boundaries. Ryan Long, obviously, we've had him on the show several times.
It's just good luck getting it on network TV. That's the problem.
No, I don't think these people want that anymore.
I don't think-
I
it's
think the
just-
comedians are like, why? You can't make jokes.
I mean, what's his name? Got arrested for
George Carlin.
Yeah, Carlin got arrested for saying
awesome.
8 words you can't say, 7 words you can't say, and he said them anyway. And then that stuff does not jive with late night TV. It's always kind of cool to land like a Tonight Show spot as a comedian, but I think, like you said about the Republicans seeking like a good word in the New York Times, like getting an award or getting that one moment in the spotlight is not really valuable.
It's like the counterculture has become the establishment. Like I was literally sitting there listening to Sirius XM and Rage Against the Machine. Tom Morello came on talking about his like channel and blah blah blah, and I was like Rage Against the Machine is now Rage for the Machine.
Rage on behalf of the machine.
Yeah, like I'm like this. It's the least like right now. Like all of these people have completely sold out everything that they were supposedly.
I love
for.
it.
There's all the counterculture and punk rock and all that. It's all dead. They killed it all. It's all just milquetoast, boring crap now. You know,
It's like Tom Morello is like, "What's up, everybody? This is Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. Check out my album. You can order it on Amazon or find it at Walmart.
Yeah, exactly.
Produced by Shenzhen slave labor youth for 50 cents an
a big
hour."
problem with the record and music industry is like auto tune and computers. Like how you can record your one segment of like one, what do they call it, a beat or like
Yeah.
you can like 16 bars. You can record it and then stop. And then record the next 16 bars and then cut them together in the computer, which is
what?
totally disjointed way to
What are
sing.
you talking about?
If you want to like sing a song, normally back in the day,
what does that have to do with what we were talking
it's
about?
cheapened the art.
No, I disagree.
Back in the day, you would go
It
in
says-
and you
it
have
has
to kick it
little-
in one track, and it has to be good because that's the way it sounds.
has little to do with the rage on behalf of the machine.
14-year-olds don't
supporting-
realize the passion that is involved with art because
Ian,
they don't
Ian,
have to.
You're
The
totally,
computer's doing
you're
it for them.
Not even talking about the same thing. If when hip hop came out, people called them demo tapes. They said it was not real music. I'm not going to have an argument about what is or isn't enjoyable music. I'm having an argument about punk rock bands that are supporting Walmart and Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be punk if you're going to rely on a computer to do the
Yes,
work
you
for
can.
you.
Dude,
Nah,
what are you
that's
talking
not punk
about?
rock, dude. Punk rock's gritty.
You're an old man, Ian. Get with the program.
Hey, I'm not
Your
even punk
music
rock.
Is old.
Punk rock is hardcore. It's not. You don't rely on a machine to fix it for you.
You're making excuses for your bad music.
I'm pointing out why
You can
there
make
is
music with
a
whatever
dead
you wanna
punk
make
rock
music with.
scene right
No.
You
now.
know what's amazing? To digress, but on the music thing here, Sean Ono Lennon is like one of the best follows on
He is.
Twitter.
Definitely.
And like I'm like, and the guy is not even saying anything that's that far out there. He's just asking questions sometimes, and I'm realizing that's revolutionary right now on the left. Somebody who's
John Lennon's son.
John Lennon's son with Yoko Ono. Like
Yeah.
so he's got these kind of like the background that's bulletproof. You can't accuse Sean Ono Lennon of being like a white nationalist. So like he's the guy who can say like, hey, by the way, are things going too far? And start asking the question. And I'm like, that's so crazy that we've gotten to a point where that's revolutionary. That's actually revolutionary, is now doing something so baby step of just saying, hey, is this going too far?
I should just write parody punk music that's just like super in favor of the establishment and like massive multinational corporations. Just write a punk rock song like Joe Biden rocks.
I can't even go back. So I used to like Rage Against the Machine, but I can't even listen to their music anymore because all of it feels so fraudulent at this point. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
to be fair, like Killing in the Name, like there was a video I saw, it was funny. It was conservatives dancing to Killing in the Name, and I'm like, you guys know what that song's about? Like white supremacist cops who are murdering black people? Like that's Black Lives Matter. I guess the interesting thing is the response I saw from this, I tweeted about it, were people like, dude, they know what the song's about. Like, they legit don't like cops who are racist killing black people. The left just thinks all conservatives agree with that. And I'm like, wow, that's actually kind of a crazy point. Like, you could have liked Rage Against the Machine. And then I had this funny moment where I was talking to this Antifa guy. This was in Berkeley, and he had a knife. And he was like, all those people are fascists. And I was like, all those people in the park right over there? I was like, yeah, they're all fascists, man. And I was like, do you think those people are pro-gun? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, do you know why they're pro-gun? And he's like, well, I don't know. I was like, isn't it because they're scared of a tyrannical government taking over, so they want guns to protect themselves from fascism? And he was like, oh, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, so it kind of sounds like they're the ones who don't like fascism and they like want guns to protect themselves. See, like the left has this assumption that the right loves the government. And I'm like, yeah, maybe some elements are like supportive of the government, but like the Gadsden flag and like all that stuff about like small government, I'm not surprised they're dancing to Rage Against the Machine, where they're preaching about racist cops like being bad. Because conservatives are also skeptical of government, but they do support cops. That's why it was kind of paradoxical.
I know, but so in a way, I feel like kind of the bases have kind of flipped over the last 20 years, with the base of the right wing base getting more and more like skeptical of authority, skeptical of the government, more like self-reliant. Less interested in foreign adventurism. Less, more skeptical of Wall Street and big business, and that the left has completely and totally sold out to all of that. Again, it gets to your point about Rage Against the Machine selling their CDs
well, I don't know
in Walmart.
But they probably are.
I'm sure they are. But they've sold all of that out. The Occupy Wall Street people are now the party of Wall Street.
Well, the Occupy Wall Street split up. So a decent amount of those people became Trump supporters. I remember I went to the Deplorable in D.C. And I was just like, I didn't think anybody there would know who I was. And I saw two people and they were like, Tim, huge fans. So cool to see you here. Nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize I'd have fans who were like Trump supporters. And they were like, oh, no, we were down at Occupy Wall Street the whole time. And I was like, you're wearing MAGA hats? And like, yeah, Trump's the guy, man. And I was like, wow. But like when you think about it, these are people who are angry at the banking establishment, angry at the political establishment, and Donald Trump came in and said, bring the jobs back, secure the borders. That sounds about right.
But also, they were voting against Hillary. We got to be honest.
Absolutely.
Hillary usurped that from Bernie, and people voted against Hillary. Just like they voted against Trump this time, they voted against Hillary last time.
That nasty woman. If she had
was
just
so hateable.
If she just
She was.
Yeah.
She
hateable.
was. In a way that like Biden is really not that hateable.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of, and you almost feel bad for him. You feel like, God, I wish he wasn't
we
put
could
out
get this
here.
over with.
Yeah, like
Just let him
how
go.
the story ends. So we just hurry
there.
up and get to the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like whereas like Hillary, every time she said something, it came across as so smarmy and so elitist, and you're just like, oh God, I want you to lose so bad. Please lose.
Her email scandal was insane. Like, what did she burn? Like 30,000 emails that she just destroyed and disrupted with like talks with Sidney Blumenthal about going into Libya when she was Secretary of State. She's got. After she was
She was so entitled.
Ian. She said it was yoga. It was emails about yoga.
Yeah, her daughter's
or
wedding.
something.
Oh, no doubt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, her daughter's wedding. It's like I just again, she was the perfect opponent for Trump.
Yeah,
because it was the establishment versus and I'm not the first person to say this, but it was it was Bushwood. It was Rodney Dangerfield. It was the Caddyshack.
Have you ever seen
election.
Dogma?
No.
You never seen the movie Dogma? Have you seen Dogma? You guys haven't seen the movie Dogma?
No.
What? The Kevin Smith movie?
First Kevin Smith movie I missed.
With Jay and Silent Bob, and like basically the story is Loki and what was the other angel? Bartleby. Two angels fell from heaven. They want to go back. Man, I can't believe you guys haven't seen the movie. Anyway, there's a point in the movie where this demon, his name is Azrael, he wants to end all existence because he hates being in hell. And so there's one scene where he summons, or something called the Golgothan. It's a demon made of human excrement. So Golgotha, I guess I don't know.
That's where they crucified people.
Right. And so when people get crucified, all their waste, drops out. And so the idea was that all of that waste from all of these evil people formed a demon called the Golgothan. Hillary Clinton is that, but for the political elites. So like after a huge, really long congressional session, and all of the members of Congress and Senate run to the bathrooms and then flush at the same time, Hillary emerges from that muck and climbs out, and then she goes up on stage, vote for me. And you're like, I'll take the orange guy. Right? This lady's, outside of the silliness, she represented all of the filth of the political establishment, more so than anyone we'd seen in a really long time.
And she never even tried to shine it up. That was the thing that was so amazing about Hillary. It was like, I mean, look, Bill was garbage. I mean, he was total trash. But Bill tried to come across as, I feel your pain. You know, like he tried to be likable. Hillary figured out a long time ago, like, I'm completely unlikable, so I'm just going to go with it. You know?
Who would you rather vote for, Mitt Romney or Hillary Clinton?
Oh, jeez. I mean, I guess Hillary Clinton.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because I think maybe she would, like, at least keep us safe internationally, you know? Like,
She's going to start with war with Russia.
I don't know. Look, I don't know.
I feel like the worst thing that Romney would do was just extract value from the system and watch it fall apart. Hillary would actively get us involved in conflicts, but Mitt probably would too. I guess the question is, would you vote for the same person? So that's probably not a good analogy. They're both just so awful.
Yeah, they're both terrible.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's another thing. We talk about the things that Trump has exposed. Trump exposed people like Mitt Romney. You know,
Yeah.
like, and it's so beautiful. The guy who was the 2012 nominee of the Republican Party is getting booed in his home state by Republican delegates because they hate the guy. And you know what the truth is that Mitt Romney has always hated his own voters. He has always hated the dirty, unwashed masses that he had to rely on. And like, it's so gorgeous to finally see people waking up to the fact that, you want to know what? He never liked you. He hated your guts. Paul Ryan did too. None of these people liked you.
You know what's really funny? Like, Hillary Clinton definitely doesn't like you. And they say, I see these memes on the left where like, Trump doesn't like you, he's using you. And I'm like, have you ever seen Trump interact with people? I've been to Trump rallies. You know what the man does? He hugs and like shakes hands and he like smiles, and he's a germaphobe. It's like the craziest thing when he walks over and he's signing autographs from people. He would do a rally and he would come down and he would meet and greet people and have long conversations with them. I went to Trump Tower. I went to the ice cream shop and the steakhouse, and I asked the employees, like, you guys ever see Trump down here? And they're like, yeah, every so often. Do you like him? They're like, he's great. He like walks over and just hands you a $100 bill. It's awesome. And I'm like, wow, they really like the guy. Hillary Clinton, the stories we hear about her, she's on like an Air Force jet and she holds her wine glass up and goes, and these like Air Force officers are like, lady, I'm not getting your wine for you. And she goes, and they have to pour her wine for her. The stories about Hillary are that she's despicable and evil and nasty. And then you look before Donald Trump ran for president. Everybody loved him.
Oh, God, yeah.
They loved the guy.
Yep, absolutely. And by the way, so 2011, I got Trump invited to speak at his first CPAC. And Trump comes, and he's a total mess before his speech. He's mad that it was late. Like, he went to the wrong entrance. It was kind of a disaster. Goes up there, gives a barn burner speech. He gets done. We're walking out, and they decide they want to leave through the service entrance. So we're going out the service entrance, and literally he stopped and shook hands with and took his picture with every single busboy, waiter, housekeeper, like it was the first time, like, I watched him give his speech and it was Trump being Trump, you know, and I was like, I didn't think it was like Trump had some political future. And then I watched him interact with all of those working class people on the way out, and I was like, wait a second, like, there actually may be something here.
Yeah. Well, how about we go to Super Chats, everybody? If you haven't already, smash that like button. It really does help. Subscribe to this channel and share the show with your friends. The best thing you can do. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, give us a good review. Smash the like button. Let's read it. So a lot of people have mentioned we have bad audio. We'll sort it through.
Tweaking it.
Yeah, we're tweaking it. We're gonna listen back and then just try and make it better and better and better. It's, you know, you can do what you do, I guess, you know. All right, let's see. Xeon Reborn says Texas passed 3 Pro 2A bills, and it's on the way to the governor's desk. Constitutional carry, suppressor freedom, and 2A sanctuary state. Wow. Do we got to move to Texas?
I second that. I like the weather.
I do not like the weather.
Ooh, I do not like the weather either.
Yeah.
Heat.
No.
Bring it on.
The oppressive heat.
95
Maybe we can buy an old missile silo
it's like
and live underground.
105 degrees.
There's like, and everything will kill you there.
Yeah. It's like
Snakes.
Australia.
Scorpions, snakes, like, yeah.
It's like a mini Australia.
Yeah, I'm not good with that.
Ugh. Florida and Texas are passing these laws that are really good for social media censorship, you know.
The weather.
But the weather. Florida's the worst.
I know. No. So I was at Trump Doral, like, at the end of March, beginning of April. And it was like nice time to be in Miami, which meant it was like 90.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And still, I'm like, I'm not built for this.
No.
And it's wet. It's humid.
It
too.
is.
Maximum humidity and maximum heat. And so people can't go outside on say because you can't. So people stay inside in the air conditioning. When I lived in Miami, we were just like Oh man, I can't wait till January and February when we can actually go outside.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Even then, it's 90 in February sometimes.
But it wasn't as humid.
Yeah.
So it was like you could go outside and it was just hot, but you were still okay.
How nice.
Yeah. And the rest of the year it was like maximum humidity. So you like swim through the air. It's like, oof. But the thunderstorms are really fun. You know, watching the crazy storms.
And by the way, like I'll give, like, obviously Florida handled COVID like so
DeSantis, man.
darn well. And by the way, when I went down there, it was still where Florida was free America. So just the joy of taking off my mask and not, like, I was like, I can deal with the heat, I can deal with the humidity. This is the way life is supposed to be lived.
All right, we got Kyle Buchanan says the Babylon Bee must be shut down because too many of their stories come true. That's right. Georgie Georgiev says, hello, Tim. I'm an alcoholic. You helped me while I recover. I watched all your stuff. Love you, man. I make good money. I hate how the MSM lies. I have a friend that thinks you are far right. He refuses to listen and be rational. Anyway, love you, man. It's like, what does far right even mean, you know? Like, we're just an approximation of a chimpanzee full of snakes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Go watch Freedom Tunes if you don't understand what that reference is. Just Kidding says, released my first independent EP today, Still Alive by Jason Card, on YouTube and Bandcamp. Support non-woke musicians. Absolutely. You
Very
must.
cool.
Caleb Crow says, have you heard the recent song Never Take It by 21 Pilots? A bit surprised they took the issue on. Thought you'd find it interesting. Starts out, quote, now that they know information is just a currency and nothing more. Interesting. Bullet Tooth Tony says, Malice at 26 on Amazon for Anarchist Handbook. Is it 26? I thought it was higher.
number 3.
So okay,
Yeah, wasn't
so
it higher?
he was super, super high under Anarchy. As
okay.
like general, I think he is number 26 in general, which I guess is like above Oprah and definitely above.
Nice
some of those-
job, Michael.
Everybody,
Yeah.
you
Rocking
need to
it.
buy Michael's book, The Anarchist Handbook, on Amazon. You must.
You have
Because we have to support people who are challenging the cathedral and the establishment.
Yeah.
And no one, well, I shouldn't say no one, but Michael is one of the best of the best. So
It does it with such glee. You know? It's like it never feels mean. It always
Yeah.
just feels so good. You know? Like,
he's like an undercover angel.
Yeah.
He's cool. He's really.
he
And
gets
he's-
way too
We're
much
lucky.
promotion on this show. We're always just singing his praises.
He also
And then his Twitter lights
self-published
up.
this book, so
Dude's
he's
funny.
like really rocking
No,
it.
but
Come on.
people should buy his book because and Michael Knowles' book is available for pre-order.
Oh, I heard.
Oh, that leaves
That's right.
Speechless.
Ah.
Got to support people who are challenging the establishment. Navasa says, when, let alone if, is Timcast going to sell raffle off Timcast live tickets? Okay, there are several things that have to be done on a business level, which are very difficult to do. We literally can't just be like, come hang out. You can't do it. It's not allowed for a variety of reasons. So, appropriate legal paperwork to allow us to have people, come. New website launches. We're going to have first come, first serve, select tickets. We need to figure out what the total capacity is going to be. It might actually be 30, so it might be 15 and 15. And then we're going to have auction-based tickets. Of the top 15 in the auction, we'll get the tickets at a certain, so it'll go on for 24 hours, and then when it finishes, it'll go, boom, there's the people who win the tickets. And that way we can have the people who maybe, can't afford to pay a crazy amount for tickets. First come, first serve, that's on merit. If you can get it, you can log in fast enough, you can get it. And then for the people who are too busy with work, can just choose to pay a little bit more. We're trying to find the right balance. It's basically just about screening, people. I don't expect to make $1 billion off of tickets. We're just trying to find a way to do it appropriately because we don't have that much space. But we wanted to do it in March. And then we hit legal bump where it's like, no, you can't do that. It's like, okay, well, we got to file paperwork. And then once we can, yeah, and then we got to build the website. So I think the website should be done in only a few more weeks. The final upgrade with, it's like we're upgrading our upgrades. We're building as fast as we can. It's only been 4.5 months, ladies and gentlemen, since we launched the website. So please bear with us if you are a member at timcast.com. Just know that you being a member is what's allowing us to actually fix and make this good. So my apologies to everybody who's experienced some kind of bug or glitch or something. We built like a really simple WordPress site, and then we got traffic on par with like a large news publication that we weren't prepared for because we did not expect. And that's our fault. That's our fault for sure. But I really do appreciate everybody helping get that set up. Butters Scott Stotch says, have you ever thought about having Donut Operator on your show? I think he would be great. Donut Operator has an open invitation. Absolutely. I guess we just got to figure out when we can. And Colleen Noir as well. Zermus Playground says Amazon is now implementing vaccine IDs for their employees. In order to remove your mask, you have to bring in proof of vaccination and get a sticker on your ID, even in Florida. They're flagrantly disregarding the passport ban. I'm so glad I'm leaving. Well, you see, this is a clever loophole. They're not saying you must or you're out. They're saying, no, you don't have to, but you can take your mask off if you do. See how that works? It's clever. It's kind of like how the government bans guns. They say, we're not banning the gun, but it is now an NFA item, which means you'll have to pay a tax and then file paperwork and then get fingerprinted, and then maybe a year you'll be able to get it. And a lot of people just go, I don't even want it. It's too much work. Michael K says, about calling Biden policies communist Nazi, you are forgetting that Nazi is an abbreviation of nationalist socialist. Berlin suffered coal shortages in 1937. Germany was second largest producer of coal after USA. Interesting. Yes. Communist Nazis. Commander Mickelent says, in the book version of Starship Troopers, service is anything meant to serve your fellow man, most being government services like mail, road construction, etc., and the gov cannot deny you from serving. I like that. Simulation says, community service guarantees the right to vote. 50 hours of community service for the right to vote that year. I don't know. What do you think about that? I kind of like it.
Got to define community service
Yeah.
because, like, if you're an artist and you perform shows and people love you and you help
And you do it
people,
for free.
then that would be a type of community
That's right.
service. But
You go to,
the
like,
government doesn't think like
you
What
that.
if I don't like leaving my mountain? I just want to be left alone up there.
If you don't want to contribute, you don't have skin in the game. Why should you get to vote on what people do with their money or their tax dollars?
Because they take my money in tax dollars.
I guess that's a good argument against service guaranteeing citizenship. If you pay, you vote. So how about that? I work and then I give money to the system, so I have a right to say what that money goes
That's
to.
fair.
Yeah.
So then you get a bunch of really dumb people with no skin in the game other than their taxes. Hey, there you go. Oh, here we go. Josiah Magnuson says Project Veritas dropped a video with whistleblowers talking about Facebook's suppression of vaccine hesitancy on their site.
Yep.
Creepy.
Wow. Oh, James O'Keefe, by the way, got cast in an off-Broadway performance. Was it Oklahoma? He's
I
playing Curly.
thought-
Wow.
That's awesome.
Nice job, James.
I'm excited.
I think, the problem is, I'm like, man, James O'Keefe needs to run for office because he's a fighter.
Did you see him doing the moonwalk?
Yeah.
so
I've seen
good.
him doing many moonwalks.
He's awesome.
But he's probably the most... James has got like so many spines, he's probably have to go for surgery to like fix his back. Like his spine is too big.
Yeah.
It's too big.
He belongs in
He,
deep
he
space.
he fights harder and more than basically anybody else.
Smart too.
But then is he more effective running Veritas than he would be in office? Probably.
He's going the right direction with the entertainment industry.
I think he just likes singing and dancing.
True.
For sure.
He does like the Michael Jackson stuff.
He's funny. He's so serious with
great.
his work with Veritas, but he's so funny.
It's always
love
so
that guy.
fun learning like little bits about people like that you're like, God, that's so against type. I love
Yeah.
it.
you saw the
interesting.
music video they did?
No.
great. It's like a
what was it
dance
called?
video.
I forget.
Kinda
It's
like
so
a
good,
man,
though.
like a Paula Abdul video.
Oligarchy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He filmed a music video called Oligarchy. Excellent. Doc Williams says, Tim, longtime listener, thank you and guests for making people aware to prepare for the unraveling. I work my fingers to the bone to turn money into food, crypto, and various fast metals. My family is ready. I love Cassie and our 3 girls.
Aw.
I don't know what's going to happen. I've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out in terms of like actually thinking something crazy bad is going to happen and there's going to be a collapse or whatever. And what I mean by that is, are we going to go full Mad Max? Probably not. Is there going to be turmoil? Probably. Turmoil happens, and we've been in a really long period of growth and golden age. Now things are getting crazier. So it's not like I think the U.S. will cease to exist. A lot of people are like, the country's going to break up into like the Chinese run West and the European run and Canada and Mexico and like the John Teeter conspiracy. And I'm like, I think the dollar will bottom out and the petrol dollar will cease to be the main thing maybe. And then we'll have to spend a lot more money and work harder for food and we'll all probably just keep living.
Yeah, we desperately need a new industry in the United States. I think that something like the graphene industry could absolutely be we could be the 24th. Are you familiar with graphene? The material, it's carbon, like a carbon nanolattice or one layer. It's
Technology,
incredible chemical properties. It's like electrically conductive. You could use it as a super capacitive battery. You could use it as wallpaper, clothing. You can eat it. It's pure carbon. And if the United States can start industrializing and printing this stuff and selling it to the world, I think that can give us a purpose.
By the way, I'm not one who thinks that like things are just going to completely fall apart. I do have to tell you though, the shutdown of the pipeline for a week was a real eye opener to me because a whole bunch of people who I didn't think would be the type who are going to panic panicked.
Started pouring gas in their pockets. And
Yeah, like you saw the
their
video.
shirt.
And by the way, it wasn't just out in like, my rural area. Like DC had no gas.
Yeah, 88% of stations were out.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's like, I feel like the country is on edge.
Yep. James Ornthal Nguyen says, 2 of your youngest fans, Lola and Seuli, would love a shout out from everyone on tonight's show. They also want to know if the Timcast events will be general admission or bar age patrons only. I believe it will be general admission. We do a family friendly show. And the events we're planning on doing are going to be just kind of like hangouts with maybe some music. Maybe we'll have, a certain guest come and we'll all hang out and you get to just, probably grill some late night burgers or something. And it's going to be like, the idea would be Friday at 10 to midnight. You come, you hang out, play music, there's drinks. And it's super chill. So people will be there probably with their kids and stuff like that. And we'll have to figure it out because there's a capacity issue. But if like someone gets a ticket and they want to come with their family, but their family, it's tough, right? So if someone buys a ticket and then their wife doesn't, what are we going to say? Like, all right, your family can't come. We'll have to figure it out. So there's a lot of stuff to work through. But I think, one ticket probably should be good for like, a family or whatever. We'll figure it out. The big issue is capacity issues. So we have legal things to deal with in terms of a business allowing people to come. And then it's not that big of an outdoor space. So the initial number, I think, was like 20 people. So that should accommodate if people have like family and kids are coming. So it would be like 30 or 40 people max. So we can only sell like 20 tickets. We got to figure it out. Mr. Renegade says, I'm a truck driver who's a giant fan of... Oh, actually, I forgot. Can you guys shout out Lola and Seuli?
Yeah.
Lola and Seuli.
Lola, Seuli. What up?
They sound adorable. I would love to meet them.
There you go. Shout out. Okay, Mr. Renegade says, I'm a truck driver who's a giant fan of the show and appreciate all the work you guys do. My favorite line that Tim used to say is, the screeching and reeing left. Bring it back. I'm trying to like differentiate between the different groups because liberals and leftists are not the same thing. I can respect that leftists are like, we demand gun rights. And I'm like, that's good. I don't think for the same reason as us, but if you want to defend my right to bear arms in general, I'm going to accept that win. Liberals don't want to do that. So you got to like figure out the different factions. So like the screeching and reeing left, these are like the woke ones who have no real politics but just scream because they're just whiny. Like the DSA meeting where they were like, point of personal privilege, the chattering is getting to me. And yeah, that's the
So
screeching.
perpetually aggrieved.
Yes.
Perpetually aggrieved. All right. Axel Thunderpaw says, we're in a civil war and a cultural revolution. Our elites are killing citizens and stealing their money and rights. Hopefully YouTube actually lets me super chat for once. And Cuomo put sick people knowingly in nursing homes and killed people. Creepy. Dragon Lady says, Democrats move from blue area to red, destroy it and move on. They're like locusts. They're moving from planet to planet. After they've consumed every natural resource, they move on. Independence Day. Brandon Tom says Fauci lied, people died is missing one key premise. Idiots listen to him. The proverb, fool me once, shame on you, shouldn't be taken seriously during a pandemic. We're endowed with our own minds to discern evidence and prosper. In the beginning, when Fauci said don't wear a mask, this was early on, and I was like, the guy, he says you don't need it, so it makes sense. It's not going to do all that much. I think people are freaking out. It's not going to protect you. And then it turns out he lied, and I took him seriously. And I won't make that same mistake. And I immediately was like, this guy's lying. He's full of it. He just sits in his room and he's probably like eating Cheetos with like Cheeto dust on his hands, and he's watching MSNBC, and they're like, should we wear 2 masks? And he goes, 2 masks? I like that. Oh, I got to go on TV in an hour. You should wear 2 masks. He never actually said to wear 2 masks. He was just like asked, and he's like, it's common sense. They're wearing 2 masks. There you go. Cal L says wokeness is being driven by feeding HR and corporations with fake data made by AI and bots on what's popular from Twitter and social media on what's popular. 50 to 80% of opinions are fake. I completely agree. James Alford says Chris Barron, never heard of him, but I like him. Thanks to him for opening me up to people I can respect and sometimes disagree with. And yes, that can be one of your hosts. Absolutely. Joshua Ryman says, to paraphrase Al Pacino, scent of a woman, for the Fed, Reserve, and Deep State, FU2. Hey, there you go. Matthew Mansfield says, Ian is a gray Jedi.
Yeah, you're right.
I can see it.
Brand Dizzle says the kill bots had a preset amount of kills registered in their system. Zap clearly outsmarted the coding.
He did.
You know that reference from Futurama? So Zap Brannigan is this really bad military leader for some reason, and it was a war against the kill bots. And he's like, I quickly realized the kill bots had a preset kill limit, so I sent wave after wave of my own men until the limit was met, and then the war was over. Yeah, that's one way to do it. A preset kill limit. What a great show. Anthony Cothran said, did Ian just admit to being a jellyfish? I'm a libertarian when we need it and a conservative when needed. Read this after his answer.
I highly recommend looking at pictures of the brain stem inside your body because it looks like a jellyfish.
He's confessed. And then Anthony says,
I confess nothing.
He says, I hope he is a contrarian.
He is that, obviously.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. See what I did?
Zendo Kien says, hit like GD it. That's right, you must hit like.
That's right.
Smash the like button. Clef the Misfit says, Tim, you're giving people bad advice. Proponents of CRT don't use the term. People need to look out for the words diversity, equity, inclusion, intersectionality, social justice, and racism. I don't like the term critical race theory because it cuts out the rest of critical theory. But I will tell you, a lot of people say, I wonder how it is that in World War II, it got so bad that people would go along with, like, doing the salutes to Hitler, the Roman salute and stuff. Why would they do that? Have you looked outside at one of these protests where these people are marching around doing the red salute? Do you know what the red salute is? It's the communist salute. It's where, I'm not going to do it, you raise your fist up.
Oh.
And hold it straight up, showing your fingers. And the difference is, there's showing your fist to someone, which is like a threat or, you know, an assertion of your power. The reason the red salute displays the fingers is that each finger together is weak. Each finger is weak, but together it makes a strong fist, and you're showing the people the unity. It's very similar to the fascists, where they had the bundle of sticks. What was it called? The fascists?
Fascies.
Fascies?
Yeah. Yeah.
The weapon. And so they would hold that shows all the sticks together, make a powerful weapon. It was very, very similar. I saw a photo of someone in my own family doing the red salute. It would be no different if you saw them doing the Roman salute.
Yikes.
Yep. But how many people have you seen marching and doing the fists in the air?
Wasn't that
Oh, yeah.
the Black
people.
Power
Black Power,
salute
yeah.
also?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the white power salute. Sure, call it whatever you want.
It was
the
just
Reds-
raising your fist in the air.
and the white power salute is raising your hand in the air, right? I don't care what you want to call it. If the communists have a red salute and some racial group adopts that symbol, they can call it whatever they want. The swastika is a Nazi symbol. I don't care what ancient India.
Yeah, it's like an
did with
ancient
it.
Hindu symbol.
Doesn't matter to
Doesn't
me.
matter anymore.
It's now people don't look at that and say, "Oh yeah, ancient Hinduism."
Wheel of Time.
No, they go, "I know what that is." So now the problem is people are showing the red salute, which is the fist, and they go, "Oh, Black Lives Matter." It was very, very clever to use the communist symbol, but to change its name. Because now they have the same symbol representing the same ideology. The Berlin Wall was called the Anti-Fascist Protection Rampart. Antifa is not new. It is literal communism. They are authoritarians, and Americans are not educated on this. So we all know why Nazis are bad, but too many Americans don't realize they're marching around doing what is effectively the same salute. But the opposing group, right? The communists and the Nazis fought. The communists lost in Germany. The Nazis won. That was the fight. Now they're marching around doing the other extremist faction salute and don't know it. So if you want to know how they got to that point, look at what's happening right now. Nadia shall worry no more says, I agree, suburban women shouldn't vote. They shouldn't drive either, so I don't have to worry every day about getting hit. I'm not a small lady. How can these people act like they can't see me? Yikes.
I agree as well.
NL Sponsel says, in honor of tonight's and every other night's theme of the deceitful media, let me shill my new album. Sponsel, from Zenith to Nadir. For the sake of making culture and all, I made sure I snuck a reference to the rabble in there for Tim's sake.
Very good.
So I love two phrases, the poors and the rabble, when I'm mocking wealthy elites, mocking poor people. So there you go.
I love the pores.
the poors.
The pores.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you could hear Hillary saying,
I know, right?
"That's so bad for the pores."
No. She wouldn't say she feels bad for them. She would go, ugh, the poors are trying to get into the debate hall. Ugh.
It's like, remember when they had her go into a Chipotle and they like tipped off the New York Times, like, look how Hillary's so normal. She's going to Chipotle. You know, they
Yeah.
had to like, you can do it, Madam Secretary, and she's like, oh, I think I can.
We'll get all the pores out. It'll be okay.
The poors.
They're looking at me.
Ponyboy says, hey, Ian, have you ever heard of the Adam and Eve story by Chan Thomas? It was a book written in the 1960s and then classified by the CIA and recently declassified with over 150 pages redacted.
Yeah, I have, but only like very vaguely.
Huh.
I remember
What is
hearing something like a. Man, I don't want to misrepresent this thing. I recommend looking into it. It was like the CIA classified it, but it was like some ancient story. It was very weird.
Huh. I looked
I
that
just
up.
got a brutal eyelash. It's
Oh, no.
killing me.
Wicked.
Stabbed in the eye.
Yep.
Traitorous.
Eric Allen says, thank you for giving actionable items to viewers re EEOC complaints. I think the EEOC is the right organization. When, like, your company's being racist, you complain to them. HMusic197 says, hey, Ian, the Beatles used multiple takes spliced together for their albums. Do some research.
Dude, the Beatles would like sit down with they'd hit record on their tape or whatever they're recording 8-track, and then they just sing Stream of Consciousness. They wrote like Strawberry Fields in like 5 minutes or 8 minutes. Then they listen back to it. This is a great way that I make music too. I don't know much about their recording.
You were talking about computers, remember?
Yeah. I don't think they had computers. Didn't they do it all on tape?
No, you're talking about how in computers you can take chunks and then just line them up.
Yeah, I'm not into that style.
That's how they always
I
have
get
always
kind
done
of
it.
disconnected from the music.
You want to
that
go
way.
back to the 50s where they would have the band in a big room and record
Well,
them
like
as
the
they
Foo
played.
Fighters do that now. Yeah, it's just. I want it to be exactly like when I see them live. I don't want. I want you to be able to replicate what I'm listening to in the album.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, YouTube. I love it when they just jump and flood
stop
us.
jumping.
Yeah, the Beatles didn't play live. They were a purely a record
Really?
making band after their first couple albums, first few albums.
I didn't know that.
Megan Stewart says the updated audio makes you guys sound sexy. Yes, it's low, but the quality is good. Love you guys. Keep up the great work. Well, then we will just figure out how to boost the audio. It's
Yeah,
that
we'll
simple.
figure it out.
There's like literally a switch. The problem is, I don't want to just crank the audio up right now. So we'll have to just do more tests. We did some tests. It sounded fine. We'll just do some more. It'll be fine. Magic Space Viking says, hey, Tim and gang, Texas resident here. The weather you feel is just the freedom you're feeling. Yes. Carl Johnson says, third time does it. Sent you a book called The Servile State. Would love to hear your opinion on it when it comes. Greeting from Portland, Oregon. Ooh, from behind enemy lines.
Greetings.
Choice Truth Music says, Alanis Morissette was God in Dogma. Feminist LOL. Hey, there you go. Explain Nation said, did you see that 1.6 trillion barrels of oil was discovered in Namibia, Africa recently? Sounds like the U.S. is going to discover weapons of mass destruction in Namibia recently. Oh, no.
Gotta protect that oil.
Let's see. Machismo Joe. Chris R. Barron, just because you said it, I asked you about the spin doctors on Twitter. Now you can't say no one has ever asked. Great show. There you go.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Do you have in your bio not the spin doctors guy?
No. Maybe I'll need to put that in now.
Baby step,
Yeah.
yeah.
Supra says, the metal community are a bunch of clowns. They showed their true colors last year by supporting the Soy Ninjas and Burn, Loot, Murder. Not really excited to go to concerts anymore.
Yeah.
Oof.
I guess they suck now.
Yeah, that's too bad. Dolomite X says, for once I have to agree with Ian. I'm a musician. Back in the day, music was real and from the heart. Now it's all modified like photos in Photoshop. It all sounds the same as well. It's junk. You for one, shouldn't disagree. There's always been pop music. There's always been corporate regurgitated formulaic trash. If someone can take 2 spoons and clank them together and make music with it, I dig it. If someone can take a bunch of hard drives and then have them do different pitches and write a song with it, I dig it. If someone can go on a computer and type in code that makes music, I dig it. If a big corporation creates an algorithm that manufactures a song based on all the other songs and it's a top 40 regurgitated piece of garbage, I don't like it. Garbage pop music by corporations who are like, we'll use a machine to make everything sound like everything else. Daniel Garland says, Tim, speaking of Texas, will you do a Timmy and Timmy Power Hour with the one and only Tim Dillon? Yes or yes. Much love from Oregon. Hopefully elsewhere soon. Tim Dillon is always welcome on the show, but the issue with people who have their own shows is that they're busy doing their own shows. Rainforest says, what's more reliable source of info? Tim's joke post, Babylon Bee satire post, or CNN's actual post? Yikes. Probably my joke posts, because they're like, so there was one where there's a video of the cops telling the protesters at the Capitol they're allowed to do it. They're like, you're okay to do it, just do this. A lot of people mentioned the doors were sealed, so they actually opened the doors for people. You could see the videos of it. And so I was like, these cops should be arrested for treason because they aided and abetted an insurrection. Come on, where's the Democrats?
Yeah.
They should be arresting each one of these cops. No, they're not going to do it. So it's not, I'm not being serious, but it's, more truthful than CNN. Geraldo Oliveira says, what I've heard, Texas suppressor bill is for Texas-made cans, but its legitimacy is debatable considering Wickard v. Filburn as the issue. The bill will be interstate commerce, not gun rights. Interesting. Soul Invictus says, you forgot the part where the government levels guns at our heads to get us to work for free. Yeah, they do that. Anthony Moody says, I love you guys. Do you think that the left will ever open their eyes to the corruption and destruction that these politicians are creating? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I think back to like the Occupy Wall Street and even some of like the Bernie like true believers, and I feel like there was an opportunity at some point for some of this like left-right populists to kind of come together, but I don't know. It feels like all of that leftist populism is gone and it's been replaced by this woke stuff, and I feel like we're never going there. There's no common ground with the woke police.
But the regular people who are just marching and doing the red salute, if you speak up, then they will back off. So the issue is Coca-Cola comes out and they yell, woke, woke, woke. And the conservatives just go, that's dumb. And the left cheers. So Coke's got no downside. The conservatives don't do anything and the left is leaving us alone. If Coke comes out and says, no, we're not woke, the conservatives do nothing and the left throws bricks at them. There's the only upside for these corporations is to support the wokeness. If conservatives start boycotting, legitimately hardcore boycotting, being like, I will never buy from you again, they'll feel the pain and they'll apologize.
And by the way, it works. It works. We saw it with the NFL. The NFL leaned in so hard on all the kneeling and the woke and the Kaepernick, and the ratings were garbage. And they cared about one thing, money.
That's right.
So all of a sudden, a couple weeks of last year, we didn't see anything more about the BLM, about kneeling.
Send an email. Who's a woke company right now? Disney?
Yeah.
Disney. Oh, God, yeah.
Disney lost a lot of money year over year. But maybe there's a better example. Who just recently started pushing woke trash? I can't think off the top of my head.
There's a cereal company that's doing super woke cereal boxes.
Yeah.
No, I mean like a major corporation that is just getting political for no reason. Why? American Airlines.
Yeah.
Mass send emails. Complain. Send emails. I'm complaining. Whenever you see a company do something woke, make sure you send your email and tell all your friends and family to do the same thing. Because then when they get flooded with 100,000 emails, they'll be like, whoa, we got to back off this. These people are getting mad at us. But conservatives don't do that. So the only emails they ever get is, you're racist. So they say, we're sorry. If the conservatives are nothing but a speed bump, the corporations don't care. You got to be more than a speed bump.
Yep.
You got to be actual opposition. All right, let's let's do a couple more. George D says, Tim, you can't compare Texas to Australia. Texas doesn't have enough danger compared to Australia. Our cute, cuddly drop bears will ruin your day. Oof. Jonathan Duger says, the good news is once we hit rock bottom, there's only one direction to go. But hopefully, how much worse will it get before we know?
Right.
Yeah, if you study the fall of the Roman Republic, it can get a lot worse than rock bottom.
By the way, there's always another bottom. Like I keep thinking with the media, like, okay, it's not got this, it can't get worse than this. This is going to be this moment of introspection and reflection, and we're going to get a better media. No, they always double down on what it's like over and over again. So I don't know what rock bottom actually looks like.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I'm ready for it. I hope you guys are too, so make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share the show with your friends. You can follow us on Instagram. We post a bunch of clips every day, little clips from the show. It's Instagram at Timcast IRL, and on Facebook, facebook.com/Timcast IRL. Many of the same posts, but you can share them, and then we can leverage the network of all of you so that we can get more people to go to timcast.com, become members, and then start getting better information and break away from the broken, fractured fake news of the mainstream press. And I'll tell you this, my friends, with your membership, We will not be buying infinity pools. We will not be buying private jets. You know what I want to do? We're going to be buying journalists, real ones. We're going to be buying documentary crews to go and film real news, and that's what we want to produce. I don't want to make content that's like super conservative or liberal. I just want to make honest content and be like, man, you guys decide. I don't want to tell you how to live. I'm just going to tell you what I saw. We need more of that. So when you become a member at timcast.com, that's the kind of thing you're supporting. You can also get access to these exclusive members-only segments. So go to timcast.com, sign up, because we will have an exclusive segment coming up. They usually go up around 11 p.m., so check it out then. Did you want to shout anything out, Chris?
Just follow me on Twitter at Chris R. Barron.
There you go.
And you can follow me at iancrossland.net and at Ian Crossland all over the internet. So thanks for coming, guys.
And you guys are cordially invited to join me in my journey to have more followers on Twitter than Sour Patch Kids at Sour Patch Lids, LYDS.
We will see all of you over at timcast.com for our exclusive members-only segment. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you there.
Bye, guys.